Ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday, December 18th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on the ON Report today. Well, last night, I think, was a little awkward. It was a little awkward for President Trump with his speech from the White House, which I think we're all kind of wondering what that was about. We'll address that. We don't have enough time to review the entire speech today, so I'm not going to play the whole speech. We're not going to review the whole speech. We'll do a little commentary to open the show. But we will be addressing the awkwardness of the speech and then the aftermath, because what you used to see, you could have somebody on the left and somebody on the right, and they would watch the same video and see two completely different things. Well, now you have that phenomenon happening on the right. So you had some people watching the speech last night and they said, my goodness, what is going on? This is not the same man we elected. This is not the same man even from the night before. What is this? And then you had the people that did what they always do. They picked up the pom-poms. They waved their pom-poms in the air. They shook their derriere. They did the high leg kick. And they told you how great it all was. And it's the greatest thing of all time. Did we watch the same thing? Did we watch the same video? So that's what you have going on the right. So we'll address that. By the way, we got two guests coming up today. We're going to have Noel Frisch on in the second hour to get an inside scoop on the Susie Wiles situation, pre and post Vanity Fair fallout. And then in the third hour, we're going to be joined by Anomaly to just kind of talk general culture and political issues. And then tonight, we will also tonight after the show, we will have a bonus show tonight with, you could say, a little bit of an announcement. This is what we were supposed to do Tuesday night, and then the guest got caught on a bad flight situation, stuck on a tarmac after a delay, so we had to reschedule for today. That's going to happen tonight. But today, okay, we've got some news. Some Epstein news, some developments on the Epstein news, and they're supposed to, tomorrow, the DOJ is obligated tomorrow to release the new Epstein files. So there's a lot of drama building here, a lot of drama building. And the Democrats in the Oversight Committee decided that they would go ahead and release some of these files today. So we'll be reviewing that. And then a bunch of other news out of the White House. Honestly, you look at this. If I'm looking at this administration, and you can point to wins and losses, you can go issue by issue and point out wins and losses. But if you talk about general direction, if you talk about general, what is the legacy, what is the picture, it seems like it's mostly just prioritizing foreign policy, bad foreign policy, unpopular foreign policy, and of course this is at the behest of the donors. Prioritizing the special interests, like the new big tech artificial intelligence industrial complex. But then it's really just turning into this Trump vanity project. It's just, what can I label with my name on it? Are we going to rename the country next? Are we just going to rename it to Trump country? Forget about the United States of America. We'll just call it the United States of Trump. And we'll put a Trump head on the flag and everything. I mean, why not at this point? MAGA would love it too, by the way. MAGA would love it. We got some other announcements, though. Obviously, more fallout from the Dan Bongino announcement. I got a pretty big stack of geopolitical news. We got a lot today. We're going to try to do it all. We're going to try to do it all here on today's ON Report.
This news update was brought to you by OwenSchroyer.store. the official site for Owen Report merchandise.
Well, folks, once again, my friends at mypatriotsupply.com/Owen have something great for you. We're only a few weeks into winter, and it's already brutally cold, huge snowstorms, and, of course, power outages. Not again every winter. Think about this. The power goes out. You have these ice storms. You never know when it's coming back on. Do you have a way to keep yourself and your family warm? Seriously, have you ever dealt with this, folks? It's not good. And in Texas, it's even worse. They don't know what to do. The temperature drops below 40 around here, and people lose their minds. But you need to keep your mind, and you need to keep your family warm. Winter power outages can even be life-threatening. That's what we had here in Texas, right here in Austin. That's why so many Americans are getting a Vesda off-grid heater from My Patriot Supply. It's a space heater that doesn't use electricity or propane. It runs on something called canned heat, which is an indoor safe fuel. With a Vesda stashed in your closet, you know you can keep warm no matter what. It even doubles as a stove to cook your food, which is pretty cool. And guys, I got to tell you, though, I'm serious. This thing in Texas in February 2021, I believe it was either February 2020 or 2021, and the power went out here for weeks. People literally were freezing in their houses. And you don't really have a fireplace. Not many houses in Austin have fireplaces, so you can imagine the creative ways. I wish I had a Vesda off-grid space heater. Now, I was lucky because I didn't lose power for more than maybe a day or two. They got the area of the grid that I'm on up and running pretty fast. But let's just say we were doing some unorthodox things to try to keep the house warm, including something that maybe I shouldn't even say, but I have a little fire pit. I kind of moved that right up next to my backyard sliding glass door to try to get some of that heat inside. That's how crazy it was. I wish I had this Vesda off-grid heater. This thing is great. So with it in your closet, with it in your house, you know you can keep warm no matter what, and it can cook food in an emergency. And right now, you can get the Vesda and a bunch more preparedness gear as free gifts when you order the Winter Survival Kit at mypatriotsupply.com/Owen. This offer won't last long, so go to mypatriotsupply.com/Owen today. Or if you're watching, you can see on the screen, we've got a code on the screen for you to scan, and you can look at that and find out more about the buy one, gift two Christmas special. So a lot of great things happening with our friends over at mypatriotsupply.com/Owen.
On the cutting edge of news and analysis, the Owen Report with Owen Schroyer.
Feeling nicey. All right, guys. I don't want to spend too much time on this. We got a lot of traction last night after Trump's speech, which I would call awkward. If I could use one word to describe it, awkward. If I needed to throw in a second word, maybe rudderless. But okay, it was another Trump speech. We did some coverage of it last night on X that did pretty big numbers, I will tell you. My commentary has been picked up by multiple news outlets today. But what's wild about the whole thing, and I'm looking outside of the lines, I'm looking outside of the box, We're trying to get an understanding of where MAGA goes from here, where the administration goes from here, where the right wing goes from here, and the different phenomenons that we're witnessing that help me reach conclusions. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at what I'm saying. And of course, I'm getting attacked. God forbid you ever say anything negative about Trump or the president. But actually, more so than I'm getting attacked by this weird new MAGA cult, I am getting a lot more support where people who I think are afraid, perhaps, they're afraid to say anything negative about Trump, or they're big Trump supporters. They still like Trump. They're rooting for Trump. I think we all are. Unless you think he's playing for a different team now. Maybe that's the conclusion you've reached. Certainly plenty of evidence to suggest that. But I feel like there has been this undercurrent of MAGA now that has been sticking around here for the first year of this administration, and they voted for Trump and they like Trump. They're rooting for Trump. But they've been a little confused, maybe a little off-put, and they're not really sure exactly how to comprehend what they're thinking, what they're feeling. And then that speech last night happens, and I think it all kind of rose to the top. It all kind of came out, and they said, okay, hold on. These things I've been thinking and feeling that have maybe just kind of been suspicions, and I've been pushing them down. Now I can't push them down anymore. Now I'm like, okay, something is going on. And I feel like my coverage of that last night kind of opened this up for people. It helped them understand what they were trying to comprehend. And then it kind of gave them the confidence to say, all right, I'm not alone in this. Others are thinking and feeling it. All right, it's time to start asking what the hell is going on. So last night's speech, again, I don't want to get too much into it. You can go watch my recap last night on X. It's about a 10-minute video. Did some pretty big numbers, got picked up all over the internet because I think it was a great breakdown. I think it was a fair breakdown. I think a lot of people are feeling that way. And yes, of course, the cheerleaders and the MAGA cultists, they don't like that. They don't like any criticism of Trump. They can't handle it. It hurts their delicate little sensibilities. But no, I think a lot of people resonated with that, and they saw the same thing and they felt the same way. And it's all going right according to the script. It's all going right according to the script that I've been anticipating here, that we've been talking about, where I said we're gonna get to Christmas. There's gonna be kind of this buildup, and then there's gonna be this drama over the Christmas break, and then you're gonna go into 2026, and this split is gonna happen. And it looks like last night's speech was kind of the catalyst that confirmed that that's what we're about to witness. Now, I'll say this because it needs to be said in fairness that we're about to get through year one. And I would say that really the administration has till the midterms to correct course, because I don't know if you can do it after the midterms. Now, there's a lot of stuff you can do when they consider you a lame duck president. My concern is that the things that this administration need to do and the things that President Trump needs to do, these are things that need to be done, and they need to be permanent. They need to be permanent. We're talking about real reform of the country. We're talking about a change agent that we elected to be president that we're just not getting right now. Unless you want regime change in Iran or Venezuela, I suppose. So you see it last night. The right wing saw two different speeches. Some of the right said it was great. Now, they might just be lying to themselves, but whatever. They said they liked it. They might be lying to themselves. They might be lying to their audience. They might just be carrying the water for Trump, or maybe they have their own MAGA audience capture. I don't know. But whatever. Nonetheless, result is the same. As we say, the result is the same. Some people saw that speech and said it was the greatest thing ever. A little culty. And then others saw it and said, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? And when you juxtapose it with the night before, where Trump was jovial and happy and charismatic, and he had aura and everything was going on, and it was great. Whether you liked the whole thing or not about, Hanukkah and Marian Adelson basically bragging about how she owns him, and Mark Levin up there, grabbing him around. Other than that, Trump was happy. He was happy. He had his charisma. He was feeling the vibe. And then there's last night, and it's like, well, who is this guy? And I called it was Trump's Biden Freedom Hall moment. When Biden went in front of Freedom Hall and had that weird, awkward speech with the red lights behind him, and he was screaming at you. Last night, to me, that was Trump's Biden Freedom Hall moment, where it was like, okay, what is this? And even people that voted for Biden at the time saw that, and they said, okay, what is this? Now, here's a conspiracy theory for you. Which might actually explain it. Because really, the only thing that was announced last night, the only purpose, I would say, to last night's speech, because Trump doesn't need to do a speech like that to fluff himself. He fluffs himself every day at the White House. And he's got all his fluffers surrounding him at the Resolute desk. We didn't need a fluff speech. They built this thing up. They did an announcement. Something big was supposed to be announced last night. The only thing that came out of it was that you're going to get active duty military is going to get a $1,776 bonus. It's kind of catchy. Oh, it's 1776. It's kind of a feel-good thing. Hey, here's a bonus check for you. Now, folks, let me just put this into perspective before we get to the conspiracy theory. It's a nice gesture, and I'm not going to complain about giving the military members a bonus, okay? So let's just get ahead of this. But let's also be honest about it. A $1,700 bonus is going to maybe help these guys for a month if they have expenses that they need covered. Now, I don't know. They still got their normal salary. I don't know the state of things in the military as far as how well off they are. But I do know what the current economy is like, and I know that a $1,700 bonus is not really moving mountains. It's nice. It's good. Okay, that's good. Nobody's going to complain about it. But let's put it into perspective. Not really that significant of a bonus, all things considered. And when you look at it, the estimated cost here for the 1776 bonus, the estimated cost is $2.6 billion. Okay? $2.6 billion. Now, I tried my best to get the right numbers for this, but it's really hard. So we're kind of just rounding to the best estimate for 2025. But to put this into perspective, and I'm just going to use two countries because they're the biggest, that's what everybody's focusing on. But you could add others too, obviously. $2.6 billion in bonuses for our active duty military members, which some people think is kind of the glazing before he sends them to war. $2.6 billion to cut checks for the military. We have given $5 billion this year to Ukraine, and we have given $4 billion this year to Israel. Now, again, these numbers are hard to track, so just accept it for what it is. That's as accurate as I could get it. It's likely higher. That was a conservative guess off of the numbers I could generate, so it's actually probably higher than that. But I went conservative anyway, and look at what we get. So Ukraine gets $5 billion, Israel gets $4 billion, and Americans in the military get $2.6 billion. That kind of puts it into perspective. And I didn't even mention Argentina. I didn't even mention the New Deal for Thailand and all the other stuff that's going on. We'll just boil it down to those three. That kind of puts it into perspective, doesn't it? And we're going to sit here and do a victory lap. And we're going to sit here and wave the pom-poms and pat ourselves on the back and say, wow, look at that. $1,700 bonus for the military. Oh, it's great. That is great. Good for them. I hope that it helps some people out in the military. I hope that they hope it's meaningful to them. But Ukraine got double that. Israel got double that. Why can't our troops get that? How about $0 for Ukraine? How about $0 for Israel? And how about we just take $10 billion and cut the military those checks with all that money instead? Then it'd be about $3,000, maybe more. Probably closer to $4,000, actually. That might actually move some things in the right direction for some of the members of the military. That might actually make a difference. $1,700, nice gesture. Good. That's good. They'll like it. Nobody's going to complain. But why not just have all of our money for Americans? Why is that so hard? And isn't that ultimately what this is all about? Isn't that ultimately what Americans are finally starting to figure out here? Whether they're on the left or the right. They're saying, most Americans have been struggling financially for like a decade or more now. Most Americans are now living paycheck to paycheck now, even if you make 6 figures a year. Most Americans have some form of debt that they are in. And yet, seemingly, we have unlimited money for foreign countries and foreign wars and foreign agendas and foreigners. And then you get it encapsulated and you say, oh, $2.6 billion in bonuses for our military, but pales in comparison to what we gave to Argentina or Israel or Ukraine. Why is that? That's strange. But that's what it is. Now, here's the conspiracy theory that I think might explain why the speech last night was so strange. And it's amazing watching this happen now on the right. And Trump did it last night too. But it's amazing watching what's happening now on the right, where people are just turning into outright liars. There's no other way to put it, folks. They're just turning into outright liars. And I guess Carlson might be the one that did this, but I don't know. This is my conspiracy theory, because it didn't make any sense, that speech last night. So here's the conspiracy theory. Trump, the original purpose of that speech, which was timed after the Venezuelan war powers vote, which failed, the original intention of that speech was to make some announcement about a further incursion in Venezuela, or even a war in Venezuela, whatever the deal is. It was supposed to be all about that. But then the vote in Congress, the Venezuelan War Powers Act, failed. And then Tucker Carlson comes out and says, my congressional sources told me that this was going to be about Venezuela. But then Trump comes out and does whatever that was last night. It was very awkward, clunky, didn't seem like he even wanted to do it. Well, maybe that's why. Maybe because the original purpose of that speech, they had to call an audible, they had to pivot, because things went a different direction than Trump was anticipating or desiring. Now, that might actually explain why it was so awkward. But here's what was even stranger to me. And I'm just convinced, man. I tell you, I talk about this a lot. I'm just convinced. And look, it's one thing when we had that guest on earlier this week, the Green Beret nap time. It's one thing when somebody like that comes on and it's just like, they're kind of just a neutral observer and a social media poster. It's like, all right. And he even said he's got a day job. So, okay, he's probably not what you would call a professional. So, okay, when I can come on here and scoop him on things and drop bits of knowledge on him that he's never heard of, it's like, okay, for that, it's like, it's kind of forgivable and it's fun and it's whatever. I'm talking about media professionals. I'm talking about people that have White House credentials. I'm talking about people that have intelligence clearances. And they're all running cover for Trump last night after the speech, which shows that they all know it was a disaster. Why else would they be going in front of all these media outlets? Why else would they be going on social media? Why else would they be going on podcasts and propping up this speech as some great thing and attacking the people that didn't think so, unless they were there to run cover? So to me, that's proof that they know it was bad. It's like, that's the point. It's like, well, gee, Trump just talked about how great things were for 15 minutes. Yeah, that's the point. If things were so great, he wouldn't have to go up there and tell you how great things are. You understand? But I'm watching this last night and they're saying, oh, and then of course they're attacking Tucker Carlson. And this is where it's like, you guys are just being dishonest. Again, these are not people posting on social media they're not professionals. I'm talking about professionals in the media. And they come out and they attack Tucker Carlson. They're saying, oh, it was bad. He got bad information and he got bad intelligence. And they're insinuating that there was no congressional meeting about Venezuela. Like Tucker just made it up. Or some, and we'll see if we have time to get to this today, but some are insinuating that this was like a smoking out of a rat or a leaker, and that the White House sent bad intelligence down the wire to see if it would get to Tucker Carlson. And I'm just sitting here, I'm like, what in the hell are you talking about? Let me tell you how insane this is, folks. I sat here and watched it, by the way. That's what I'm saying. For somebody that actually follows the news, for somebody that is actually ingrained in the news every single day, watching it, it's very easy to tell who doesn't watch the news. It's very easy to tell who's ignorant on the things that they talk about. And so they're saying, oh, Tucker Carlson got bad intelligence. Folks, do you understand that they literally came out of that congressional meeting about Venezuela and immediately started talking to the press, just like they always do? And we're going to sit here and pretend like that didn't happen? And we're going to say, oh, Tucker Carlson had bad intel or was lying? No, Tucker Carlson got the same intel that the rest of the media got. He just broke it on Judge Napolitano. And what's funnier is he was even not even comfortable saying it. Because if you go back and listen, remember, he says, well, he's like, I don't know when this airs. He's like, I don't know if I want to say this because I don't know when this airs, and I just don't know if this is real or not. Because Tucker knew, he was like, I don't want to say this and then have this air tomorrow if it turns out to be not true or something else happens. So Tucker was already like, well, I don't even know if I should say this. But Judge Knapp says, well, we're live right now. So Tucker says, okay, fine, I'll say it. But he just says what everybody else in the media saw. Folks, they left the meeting, just like every other time. The media is sitting out in the Capitol waiting for these meetings to end. And they finish the meeting and they all leave the room and they all go talk to the press. And they all said, we just had a meeting about Venezuela. It was, and I'm just sitting here, and then they attack Tucker Carlson, and they say, oh, he had bad intel. What are you talking about? His intel came from Congress. His source was in the meeting. The meeting did happen. The subject was Venezuela. Then they went and voted on the Venezuelan War Powers Act, and it failed. And I think that's why Trump's speech last night was so awkward, because it was just copy and paste from all his prior speeches. And he couldn't come out and say what he wanted to say about Venezuela. Now, that's my conspiracy theory. Others are going down that same line of thought. But either way, I'm just sitting here floored now at the amount of propaganda that comes out of the right. And these are people that are supposed to be better than that. These are people that are supposed to be fighting the propaganda. These are people that are against the fake news. Now they've just become it. Now they have become propaganda agents of this administration. That's what this is. And you're going to attack Tucker Carlson for saying exactly what everybody else that was in the meeting said. And then, of course, the big attack is, oh, see? He didn't talk about Venezuela. He didn't declare war on Venezuela. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, first of all, Trump has talked every day about how Venezuela is surrounded by our military. Okay, that's Trump. You guys were cheerleading how Trump was stopping drug dealers. Then he comes out and says, actually, this is all about oil. And then you attack Tucker Carlson for being the first one to tell you that they just had a meeting about the Venezuelan War Powers Act. Because here's how it goes. And I'm going to move on from this. But here's how it goes. They have the meeting. They leave the room. They go talk to the press, and then they go to their chambers to get ready to vote. Nobody watches the mainstream media. So nobody cares. Nobody cares that these members of Congress came out of the meeting, talked to the cable news networks, and then went to the vote. But people do watch Judge Napolitano, and people do watch Tucker Carlson. So Tucker Carlson just broke the news and made the wave, but nobody watched the networks. Nobody watched the members of Congress go out and say the exact same thing before the vote. And so they say, oh my gosh, Tucker Carlson got it wrong. Or did they switch the speech? But if Tucker Carlson got it wrong, when are you going to go after everybody else from Congress that said virtually the exact same thing to the press after their meeting, after their closed-door meeting, before the vote? And I'm watching MAGA turn into this propaganda arm of the White House, and it's sad. But hey, everybody gets to make choices. You want the access, you want the new hat, you want the autograph, you want the picture, you want the invites, everything else that comes along with it. Then I guess you'll do it. I guess you'll do whatever it takes to get that. And that's where this administration is at now. That's where it's at now. But it's very telling. It's very telling now that people on the right, we all watched the same video, but we saw something totally different. Or some people are just lying about what they saw because they're not comfortable with it, and they're not ready to be honest with themselves, and they're not ready to be honest with their audience. But if you can't be honest with yourself, imagine how much a politician can lie to you. Not going to do that here. All right, let's get into some of this news. Hey, how about some good news? I like this. I will tell you, because you know me. I'm kind of a metropolitan lifestyle kind of guy. I like to play golf. I like to go to concerts and ball games and restaurants. I like social events. I like sporting events. And so I like the whole fanfare of the 250th anniversary. I'm trying not to let it get hollowed out by whatever this administration has become and just the total betrayal so far. I'm trying to not let that ruin this for me. It's like I want to enjoy the World Cup coming here. I want to celebrate that. I think it's cool. I think it's fun. It's kind of normie slop. It's all right. I'm fine. I'll take that. Throw that at me. It's fine. It's definitely normie slop. But I like it. We're allowed to have fun. We're allowed to enjoy the spoils of America and our civilization, or whatever's left of it, for how much long we have it. So it's like, I don't want the World Cup to be spoiled by Trump making it all about himself. I don't want the 250th anniversary celebrations to be spoiled because this administration has turned into a total betrayal. So I'm going to celebrate this. I'm going to enjoy it. Trump announces Patriot Games with 2 high school athletes from each state. So they're going to be doing this. I think this is going to be a build up to the UFC fight at the White House. Here, let's read some of these details. President Trump announced today plans for a Patriot Games next year that will pit top high school athletes from across the country against one another as a part of a series of events to mark 250 years since the nation's founding. Trump announced the launch of Freedom 250, an organization that will lead the administration's efforts to celebrate the 250th anniversary in 2026. One of the events that will be featured as part of the festivities will be what Trump called the first ever Patriot Games, an unprecedented 4-day athletic event featuring the greatest high school athletes, 1 young man and 1 young woman from each state and territory, U.S. territories. The event is slated for next fall. Trump says, but I promise there will be no men playing in women's sports. By the way, there was an announcement about that today. We may get to that in the news. I'll bring that one up. There was the administration addressed this today, and California is still trying to indoctrinate kids with the LGBTQ trans stuff. Okay, so moving on. Other events planned for 2026, the Great American State Fair. All right, on and on. So I think this is cool. I think this is great. anything that inspires and motivates the youth to be the best that they can be, I'm fully behind it. And this is fun and this is cool. And it's a celebration of our country and our people. So I'm celebrating this. I'm not going to let the bitterness of whatever this administration is or is becoming or isn't ruin this for me. I'm excited for this. I'm happy for these high school athletes. I think this is going to be great. I think it's going to be great fun. Now, I will say, am I allowed to be totally positive? Can I have like no. Don't even be 1% negative. I just hope this doesn't turn into a debacle. That's all. I really hope this doesn't turn into a debacle because it seems like so much of this administration is turning into a debacle where they're just trying to do too much and things just fall apart because they can't do the attention to detail. And I will say, though, they do a great job, for the most part, handling these events. But it's one thing when it's at the White House and they can kind of have full control over everything. It's another thing when it's outside the parameters of the White House, and now you got a lot of different things you got to do to have these events go right. So I hope there's no debacle here. But I like this. I'm hoping the 250th anniversary celebrations and fairs and Patriot games and UFC fights and everything else that comes with it. I hope it's great. I hope it's a total success. I hope these athletes have a great time. And I'd say that's a good thing. It's definitely normie slop. You know, it's not deep state arrests. It's not tax cuts, but it's all right. We can have a good time. We're allowed to have fun. We're allowed to have fun. We're allowed to like things. All right. Now, here's the latest with the Epstein stuff. So tomorrow's the big day. Tomorrow's the big day where the Department of Justice has to turn over its Epstein files. Well, the Democrats decided to release some of their own today. House Democrats release another batch of Epstein photos. And some of this stuff is pretty wild. But aside from going into the nitty gritty of the different pictures and you know, Bill Gates and these weird messages they write all over these women's bodies, they look young, who knows? This is the one to me. This is the one to me that's the most telling. And this is why the whole thing about the Epstein cover-up is so outrageous and calling it a hoax is so outrageous. In fact, you don't even want to know some of the conclusions I'm starting to reach about this. Like, did Epstein kill himself in that prison cell? Did somebody have Epstein killed in that prison cell? And who might have done it? Kind of, these questions kind of have they hit a little differently today, don't they? Don't they hit a little differently today? Think about that. So it's clearly here a message, and I bet you more of this comes out, by the way. I bet the Democrats even have more of this. They're clearly doing, for whatever reason, this controlled leak. I don't know why. They're just doing this drip, drip, drip. But okay. So this is a WhatsApp message. And it's clearly somebody selling women. I mean, that's clearly what it is. $1,000 per girl. I'll send girls now. They've got the different, I mean, they literally have the statistics of their women. It's the sex slave auction block. So how are you going to tell us? And this is why it's going to get worse. Forget about the whole hoax thing. How are you going to tell us that in the entire Epstein saga and the entire Epstein case and file and the things that we know, how are you going to tell us now that only Epstein and Maxwell have been arrested for this when they were clearly trafficking sex slaves and they clearly had clients that they were trafficking them to? How are you going to tell us that it was all Epstein and Maxwell? And now we have the overwhelming evidence that, yes, indeed. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein was basically the most elite pimp on the planet. Pimp, sex trafficker, sex enslaver, blackmailer, intelligence asset, you name it. That was Jeffrey Epstein. And somebody had him killed in that prison. And somebody's covering it up because they didn't want it all to get out. So how are you going to sit here now and say case closed with none of Epstein's clients arrested? None. It has never been more obvious, as if there was any shadow of a doubt. It has never been more obvious that Jeffrey Epstein, the financier, he was a financier, all right, that Jeffrey Epstein, the financier, was a pimp and had sex slaves. But he had no clients, guys. It was just him and Maxwell. No clients. Or perhaps the clients are so powerful that they can cover it up. And perhaps the clients are so powerful and well-connected that they can have him killed in prison and cover that up too. Isn't it obvious? Now, Thomas Massey did a 15-minute report today on what to expect tomorrow. It was mostly kind of wonky as far as just the legal process and what we can get or what we have to get and what happens if Bondi does this, that, or the other thing to avoid it. But he did say something interesting, and it sounds like he has a couple dozen women on record that are kind of waiting to go public. It's like, it's kind of hard to interpret, but it sounds like there's a couple dozen women that are waiting to go public. They don't want to go public. They want to keep these things private. But it sounds like if Bondi does not deliver the goods, that these women are ready to go public with Thomas Massey. Now, I understand the skepticism there because we've been hearing this for a long time. But Massey rarely doesn't follow through with the things he says he's going to do. And Massey usually, when it comes to predictions, usually gets his predictions as far as activities in D.C., he usually nails those pretty good. So that's why I like to listen to the things Thomas Massey is saying, because he has a track record of being right. Whether you like his voting record or not, that's your own thing. But he has a track record of being right. So the heat is on for tomorrow. Ro Khanna, by the way, Ro Khanna's not the only one posting this today. A lot of Democrats are, because, of course, they're using this against Trump, but they're giving them the slack to do so. Epstein files released Friday because of me and Representative Thomas Massey getting the Epstein Transparency Act passed, and House cancels sessions that day. This is Speaker Johnson. Congress is giving itself an early holiday break. House GOP leadership, Mike Johnson, is canceling Friday votes and letting members skip town early. Wow. Why is Mike Johnson taking the clock to zeros before it's supposed to be? Why is Mike Johnson telling people to go home ahead of the Epstein release? Boy, that's strange. Who's making that call? Because I doubt it's Mike Johnson. I have to tell you, I don't think Mike Johnson made that decision on his own. Now, remember, and again, this is one of the crazy things, and I'm sorry to do this to you, but it's just true. It's crazy, and it goes back to what I said. It's like you can tell who actually follows the news and pays attention to things and who doesn't. For example, it was Donald Trump that came out and said we're going into Venezuela to get the oil. That was Donald Trump. But then I post that on X, and all the Trump sycophants say, it's not about oil. We're killing the drug dealers. I'm like, you realize Trump said that, right? So you don't even follow your cult leader. Well, it was Trump that talked about Larry Summers and Epstein. That was Trump. This is in the New York Times today. I didn't find anybody else with this story, and it's very frustrating because this was from yesterday, actually. It's very frustrating because I couldn't read this. I had to, guys, please just don't hold it against me. Just please take it easy on me, would you? Don't go too hard on me, guys, but I had to get a New York Times subscription to read this today. I know. I know, guys. I know. Believe me. It's not fun. I'm going to have to sell some of these hats from owenschroyer.store to pay for that. I'm not, but nobody else had the story, so I had to go find it. Harvard secretly investigates students over Larry Summers' video on Epstein. The students face discipline for recording Mr. Summers, the former Harvard president, discussing his ties to Jeffrey Epstein in the Harvard class. So you remember that when he said that stuff after Trump said his name and all this came out and he was addressing his students and they recorded it? Harvard is now investigating the students for exposing Larry Summers and his connections with Epstein. They're investigating students, folks, over the Epstein deal. What in the hell is going on? Jeez. All right. Trump's vanity project continues. I'm going to put that on hold because I want to go to get an inside scoop on the Susie Wiles situation with Noel Frisch from National File. So I want to get him lined up here. You know what I'll do, though? You know what I'll do? Because you guys, some of you guys you're really easy to please. You just want to come in and listen to the show, and you're really nice, and I appreciate that. But some of you are just never satisfied. You complain about everything. And you know what? I actually like it. I actually like the complaints because it drives me to be better and to learn more and improve things every day. So I don't want you guys to go anywhere. Keep the complaints coming. Keep the attacks coming. I actually enjoy it. But specifically when I talk about the show. So some people are like, and I explain this, like, why do you just play that music during the show? Folks, I've explained. I can't play music on this show. I can't. My channels get hit and they take my videos down. So it's just not even worth it. So I just don't bother. That's why I play that stuff, because I don't get a strike with it. But I'm thinking now, since people complain about that, because it's a little hard sometimes to do 3 straight hours without a single break when you're running the entire show yourself. So, sometimes I got to take a break. I mean, God forbid, I might need to go get some Blackout Coffee downstairs. So what if I just started playing videos from members of Congress for a break? They'd probably still complain about that. So I'm thinking about just doing that for breaks. Or maybe I could do commercials. You guys love commercials, right? I could do commercials if you wanted. So let's do this. I got to get the guest on. I'm going to run downstairs and probably get myself a Blackout Coffee, by the way. What are we doing over here, guys? You still got time. We still got time. blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. You still got time. I'm telling you, I've converted so many. I've converted so many to the premium instant coffee. I almost feel bad for normal coffee. I almost feel bad for the bags of coffee and the single pods. I almost feel bad for them because nothing can compete right now with the premium instant coffee from blackoutcoffee.com. Nothing can compete. And right now, the buy one, get one free sale is still on. And it looks like you can get it by Christmas, but might be the last day. Yeah, it is the last day. To even have a shot to get it, to even have a chance to get it before Christmas, it's the last day to get your orders in. But the buy one, get one free premium instant coffee, blackoutcoffee.com/Owen, the official coffee of the Owen Report. So I'm going to get the guests lined up. And I guess instead of bothering you guys with my favorite video game music, don't worry, it's not going away. I'm just going to add more to it. But today we'll go to Thomas Massey for a break. So we're going to take the break. I'm going to get the guests lined up. And in the meantime, we're going to go to Thomas Massey explaining what's going on with the Epstein files.
You're listening to the Owen Report on the Win Network.
The documents. It's that simple. So that's a good thing that we will know. One of the really novel things about the way we went about this, as opposed to my other experiences on the Oversight Committee or the Judiciary Committee, is that this is a law. It's not a subpoena. So what we've seen in the past is that Congress issues a subpoena to the executive branch, and the executive branch ties up in court and tries to delay and obfuscate And they know that if they drag it to the end of Congress, that congressional subpoena expires at the end of Congress. And so the next Congress they would have to issue another subpoena. But what often happens is the majority changes, or the person in the White House is no longer there, or the person in that office is no longer there. And so there can't be any prosecution or criminal or anything like that carries on past the Congress. This is very different. This is a law. There's no expiration date on this law. So let's say you have an attorney general who is not in compliance with this law. By the way, the law specifies the attorney general's office, not Attorney General Bondi specifically, but anybody who is in that office holding that seat. So if she were to leave, and let's say she's in non-compliance and has broken the law, then whoever gets in that seat is automatically obligated that day to release the files, because it's directing the office of the attorney general to produce files from 3 different locations, by the way. The U.S. attorneys have material, the FBI has material, and the DOJ has material. Now, the DOJ will also have material, thankfully, from the grand jury investigations and trials. So but the interesting thing that I want to point out here is, let's say they try the old tactic of running the clock out until the end of this Congress, which is about a year from now. That won't work, because what can happen is a new attorney general can bring charges against a former attorney general. And so what you might see is that an attorney general under Trump, if they refuse to produce these documents in compliance with the law, which would be ironic because the attorney general is the chief law enforcement officer of the land, but if they refuse to produce these materials, then let's say whoever is the next president, their attorney general could bring charges, because the statute of limitations will not have run out on noncompliance with this law. It's unique. It's different than if there were a subpoena and Congress had referred the person in noncompliance with the subpoena for contempt and who do they refer it to? To the DOJ. And so that's why you can never get to the bottom of these cases when it's just a subpoena. But this is a law, and it will last for forever. The other interesting thing here in this case is we're already seeing progress as a result of this, the Epstein Files Transparency Act becoming Public Law 119-38. There were 3 courts of interest that had grand jury material, one in the Southern District of Florida, a judge there, and then 2 judges in the Southern District of New York. These are federal courts. They had previously said, because of Rule 6E of the criminal proceedings, that they could not give the grand jury material to the DOJ. Interestingly, after the Epstein Files Transparency Act passed, the DOJ did go back to these judges, and I'm going to assume it was sincere. Maybe it was an attempt to get them to say no, and in the hopes they would say no, but I'm going to assume they were sincere in the request from these judges. And what they did is they requested that the judges produce the grand jury material a second time. And in all 3 cases, in all 3 of those courtrooms, the judge said, yes, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, because it's a new law, it overrides the pre-existing general laws. So that's good. We've already seen movement. And another interesting thing we saw in those judges' rulings is that they said that they will redact
the entire report
in accordance with the
Thomas
Epstein
Massey.
Files Transparency Act.
He shared it on his X account. It's about 15 minutes if you want to watch the rest of that. But I figured I'd play some of that for you. Little information there. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to a friend of mine from the National File, and that is Noel Frisch. And Noel, you're going to give us the inside scoop now of all the Susie Wiles drama. Now, do this for me. Do me a favor here. Let's kind of lay it out, because I feel like there's the pre-Vanity Fair story and then the post-Vanity Fair story. And we talked very briefly about this, but it sounded to me like there is kind of a pre-Vanity Fair, post-Vanity Fair. What's the inside scoop now with Susie Wiles, her role in the White House, and pre-Vanity Fair, post-Vanity Fair drama?
Hey, thanks for having me, Owen. Yeah, so there's a lot going on, and it's actually obviously, I think, having pretty big impact at a high national level. So going back to like 2018, we actually did a story over at Big League Politics. You guys might remember that publication with the great Patrick Howley. And we did a story with Susie Wiles. It was all about how her daughter was actually intimately involved with all of the leaks coming out of, if you remember, the first Trump administration was just as chaotic as this Trump administration. They didn't seem to be able to get anything done. It was really pathetic. And this one, it's turning out to be the same. And unfortunately, everybody wants Trump to win, right? We all, supported and voted and campaigned. But so at the Interior and EPA, Zinke and Pruitt were having a heck of a time, and it was all Susie Wiles' daughter. Okay, this girl Caroline Wiles, and Susie was on her way, kind of transitioning out of DeSantis world down in Florida and into Trump world at this time period, 17 and 18, and so the way it ended up is I actually got a call from Susie, and she wanted me to take this article down, and I ended up taking it down as a favor to her. I'm really bad at this DC stuff. Oh, and I'm a really bad horse trader. I got nothing out of it. I just took it down for her kind of as a favor. Never got nothing
your
out of it.
pom-poms, Noel.
Yeah.
You got to get your pom-poms up. You got to do the high leg kick, man.
So I take it down, and not because of any of the accuracy of the reporting. The reason, and you'll love this, and you can read, I excerpted the story. It's at National File. You can go read it there. Big League Politics is on and off again. I can't figure out what they're doing. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. So I put the full text of the article up on nationalfile.com. And just again, a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, I don't know, right before Thanksgiving. And so I put it up there, and then all of a sudden this huge, Susie Wiles drumbeat kind of gets more life. And I think it's not just me, obviously. It's our reporting. We've been reporting. We then followed it up with in 2022 we've been on Susie Wiles' case for a long time. In 2022 at National File, we knocked out a story all about her China ties, her deep lobbying ties with Ballard Associates, and then even worse is Mercury Public Affairs. It's like the deep state lobby firm. If you go back to like the Wayback Machine with
and that's all connected to the Netanyahu regime and a lot of these AI companies. True. Is that the case?
Mercury Public Affairs is the worst lobby firm that there is. I mean, bar none. It's got super deep ties to China, super deep ties with like Hillary and Obama. Okay. And then what they do is the administration change, and they kind of put like a new little lipstick kind of on the pig on the website, and it gets a kind of a little of a makeover. Right. But they're raking in cash. I've actually been into the building where Ballard is in DC this year in July, and they raked in something like $30 million in Q2 in lobbying. Okay. That's what they're doing. All right. They're selling what these people are doing is selling out America to the lowest, usually like, sand country bidder. That's what they're doing.
Sand country.
Okay. And so
it sounds like what you're describing is that we have a top lobbyist who's connected to other lobbying firms, who's the chief advisor to the White House. It sounds like that's what you're describing.
That is a fact. That is actually what we have here. She is the chief of staff, and she's doing campaigns for other countries. Like literally in 2020, Susie Wiles is campaigning for Bibi Netanyahu, while here we are losing here at home. Okay. I mean, that's a fact. Nobody's really said it that way, but that's a fact.
But it explains a lot.
Yep. So, and then she wants credit for 2024. And it's like, hold up. Like everybody, like the entire planet was done with Joseph Biden. Okay. So much so that they had to sack him themselves.
Even the Democrats threw him overboard.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And so like you get no credit. Sorry, Susie, for 2024. And then fast forward, we kind of resurrect our old story. We start telling that story again. Everybody's looking around going, why is this administration suck so bad this time around? We thought we were going to, get MAGA stuff. And then, this is the answer. This is the answer. We've been trying. And by the way, and you know how this works. We've been trying to tell folks for a long time all about this. And one of the biggest tools that like both the legislators have and the media has, like the Con Inc., the people who go to the border and cry about welcoming refugees in who, just happen to be owned by companies that, work with Mark Levin or whatever. All of these people in the media, that the big tool that they have is they kind of just wait out the reporting of the story. So like in 2 years, you'll start hearing about Glenn Beck and all these people whining about Susie Wiles, right? That's what they'll do. Oh my gosh, what happened? And they'll suddenly, now breaking, exclusive. Sean Hannity might even get in on it. That's one of their big tools, Owen. And so we've got to look, here's the cool part. I got to say this. We are destroying this poor broad on Twitter so much she had to take a huge media tour. And I got to point this is actually interesting. Your audience ought to love this. The same exact people who are doing all of the fake astroturfed nonsense posting on Twitter about Susie Wiles are the folks that are also doing all of like the pro. And I don't want to give Erica Kirk a hard time, but really the pro TP anti Candace Owens is what I would say.
Here, I'll tell you what. Let me pause you right there and try to give a little context, because I actually have this in my stack of news today. I don't know if I'm gonna have the time to get to it, but I'm glad that you brought it up now. Marjorie Taylor Greene today talked about what you're talking about. And actually, Nick Fuentes last night talked about what it is you're talking about. Now, I don't know. I'm sure Nick's intel is virtually the same as mine because we're both kind of in the same space. But let me explain what it is that you're describing, and maybe you have the same intel too, or access even. You have these groups, folks. You have these groups. They're lobbyist funded, they're donor funded, they're special interest funded. They have a pile of cash, and they basically organize social media influencers, and they will just pay you. They will just pay you to post about a subject. And so it might be an issue-based subject. Like you may remember when people were coming out during the SNAP benefits debate and they were saying, oh, Coca-Cola is great, or, SNAP is great. Most of those, if not all of them, were paid as part of these groups. So they recruit you. I mean, it's like, gee, I wonder how I would know about that. Wink, wink, nod, nod. So they bring you into these groups. They send out these things. You can choose whether you want to do it or not. And then they pay you if you post it. So it's like, and there's multiple different groups that do this. They'll send you an email, a text, whatever. And then you can decide if you want to post about this or not, or, it's an issue-based thing or it's a person-based thing. So that's what you're describing. And I really started talking about this about a year or two ago when the Trump campaign was doing it. And I started to get some of that incoming, and I warned people this was going on. It's way bigger than that now. It's much bigger than that now. And there's so much money in it now. So that's what you're describing here so that people understand the context. So there's probably a group out there, and Candace Owens has broke this too, and she came with the receipts, and they say, hey, we're going on an attack campaign against Candace Owens. You see everybody post virtually the same thing. And then on the back end, it's likely most of those people are part of these groups that pay out for social media posts. So I'm glad you brought that up in case I didn't have time to get to that later, because that's the context of what it is you're saying.
Yes, it is all connected. There's no question about it. Look, I don't have personal intimate knowledge. I've seen some of those emails probably. Owen, that you're referring to from other people that I know. I'm not big enough on Twitter, Owen. I'm not as big as you. In fact, Elon won't let me tweet. I cannot at Noel Fritch. I cannot personally tweet. I got to tell you here while I'm here.
What's wrong?
Because we broke with Patrick Howley, the Ashley Biden diary at National File, and we were getting ready to do a documentary on it and leading up into May and June. And I went on the Bannon show, and then all of a sudden I found my Twitter account was total. I was saying, hey guys, this Biden diary thing destroys Joe Biden during the 2024 election, and all of a sudden, poof, I can no longer tweet. They want me to push a big red button that says that you are guilty of child exploitation, and therefore push this button and admit it, and then we'll maybe let you back. And I'm like, I'm not pushing that button. Sorry. So anyway, I'm not big on Twitter. There are a lot of guys that are big on Twitter. It's so funny though. So Susie goes there's some of the famous people that have, like, these are cabinet secretary level people that Susie's going to and begging and saying, hey, can you pretty please? And somebody paid them probably, or some, I don't know, maybe they had to do it to keep their job, which is another form of payment, right? And there's a huge thing. Emerald tweeted it. It's like a huge collage of like 30 cabinet level members on Twitter saying Susie's the greatest. We never would have won 2024 without Susie. And it's like,
the producer here, my producer DMT posted out. He compiled all those images. He posted all of those out too. Now I don't know. Now my guess is that's administration stuff that they're sending out to their administration. I doubt that that's part of one of these social media pools where they send out the influencers.
Still pressure nonetheless.
But it's the same result. See, that's my new thing, is the same result. Result.
Yep. She's leaning on him to do it. And it's like, hey, keep your job. You better do it. Right. And so they're going to do it. And look, so you had Susie go on this 10-day media tour with like all these interviews. And then you had this other lady, God love her, she lost her husband, going on this media tour. Okay. The same 10 days. Neither of them worked. Both of them were huge flops because they're very old, stodgy kind of media tours. And Susie, at least for her part, is still getting destroyed on Twitter over the last, 48, 72 hours, even after the culmination. And then how does it culminate? It culminates in Bongina retiring and then Trump having to go on TV to Did
you say Bongina?
I'm sorry. I meant Bongino. Yeah. Yes. Bongino.
Okay. That's a new one. I had to get a laugh out of that. All right.
So yeah. And I have some track record with him. We do from both National File and Big League Politics days. He doesn't like to cover big news stories that will actually change things. Believe it or not, Owen. I guess maybe you'll believe it. And so looking at this arc that we have here, we have massive pressure on Twitter against Susie. Everybody's looking like for a scapegoat. We were like, what's going on here? And so, they shot at Trump back in July, at Butler. And then they killed Charlie Kirk, I believe, as a reminder to Donald Trump about what they could do. See, the offer is still on the table from Butler. We never caught the perps really, because it wasn't some kid. It was obviously a governmental levels kind of an operation. I had sourcing back then, Owen. A former station chief told me that it was actually subcontracted out to the Indian subcontinent by another country over there in the Eastern Mediterranean on the Levant that a lot of us are very familiar with. And so that this all ties together. There's no question about it. And so we're looking at our president that we thought was our MAGA guy that was supposed to take us into like a renewed age of the rule of law, doing the exact opposite. And people are sick of it.
What was the process that led to Susie Wiles getting the gig? Do you know that?
Well, it's very interesting. So she, in the interregnum period, went in on the Save America PAC. And I actually had some sourcing.
Was that Musk's PAC or what PAC?
No, that was the Donald Trump PAC. Yep. And so
that was the Trump PAC. The Musk was just the America PAC. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right. And so the Save America PAC was the Trump PAC. And so now there was like some period of time where people were, and in 20 even, I believe, and there was some period so she was on the campaign and she was on the PAC. It was really weird. And so this is interesting, Owen. From 19 and into 20 and into 21, she was officially, and we could go track all this down. She was officially the head of the PAC, except she was not taking a paycheck. Okay. Now she was also at Ballard at the time. Okay. So the question is like, if you're not getting paid to do a job, who's paying you? Well, who's paying her was who was paying her. And that's Ballard, the lobbyists. So, and then eventually I was tracking the FEC records, a year and a half, 2 years later, there might've been a little bit of bubbling up around it on the internet. She finally decides to start taking like some, for her, $10,000 is like a nominal paycheck. Okay. That's how much money these people have. $10,000 is nothing to them a month. Right. So she's just like, does it. It's like
the economy is doing great for them. Obviously.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so she was in with the pack forever in the interregnum period, coming out of into 2020 and into all the way through the into 2024 election. And then I'm not sure when the Save America PAC stopped paying her, and then if she went and if she officially went on to the campaign, there's no telling. But the main point, the broad point here is that who's paying her is who's paying her, and that's the lobby stuff, because they're making tons of. Same with Bondi, by the way. Bondi's in the same lobby firm at Ballard,
literally
making a whole bunch of money.
Yeah,
and
what's even crazier too is Trump, and I reposted this last night. Trump on the 2015-2016 campaign trail, he directly called out the Adelsons for buying politicians, and he actually called out Rubio directly. He said Rubio was a puppet of the Adelsons. He said that. And of course, he used to call out the lobbyists for running everything. That was the Trump. That was the old Trump, right? I mean, that was the Trump that we voted for 3 times. But now Trump is owned by the Adelsons, and now Trump has a lobbyist running his White House. And so that's what's so frustrating to me. It's like, whatever, all the new coming MAGA people, or all the people that still believe in the left-right paradigm, or all the people that think politics is like a ball game and they just put on the hat and cheer for the team, and that's just all it is to them. Fine, I understand that. But don't sit here and tell me that something isn't wrong. Don't sit here and tell me I'm crazy when I can sit here and look for myself and say, here's Trump complaining about lobbyists and the Adelsons just 10 years ago, and now the lobbyists and the Adelsons run his White House. So you're not pulling the wool over our eyes here.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly right. They love having us in the R versus D paradigm. Democrats bad, Republicans good. Hold up, like, guys, we've got to clean our own house first. If the Republican Party is going to do anything, we've got to clean our own house first. I know, Owen, you've gotten involved politically on some campaigns. I do that, full disclosure. On the back end of things, politics is how I got into the media, because I got into politics first, and I saw that there was a need for actual honest media. When I had a really good client and we were getting attacked by the Daily Caller all the time, and the Silverstein broad over there, and I think she's no longer with us, but it's a crazy business, Owen. I know it's some of the knives come out from some of the most bizarre places. I've seen the knives come out from the Daily Wire for some of the reporting we've done. And all we're trying to do is get like America First MAGA candidates elected. And that's one of the lessons I've learned, is that's the third rail, is hard politics. I got a couple weeks ago, Tucker went and sat down with Sean Ryan and has this conversation and goes into basically we're all done with hard politics. This politics, it's just so dirty and unseemly. And I'm sitting back here saying, hold on, guys. Like, I like both of those guys a lot. I respect them both a lot. I mean, Tucker's done great for moving the needle on a lot of messaging stuff. Sean Ryan I've been watching his kind of arc. It's great. But I got to say to these guys, right now, thankfully, we are mostly non-kinetic. Okay. And if we don't get it right, it's going to go kinetic. And if it goes kinetic, and you're sitting on the other side of now a kinetic conflagration in the United States, and you never got involved in Republican Party primary politics, well, you missed the boat, dude, and it's on you heavy. So these guys that are preaching noblesse oblige, Owen, okay, and duty to country, it is their duty to get involved and to clean up this, what is supposed to be our vehicle for conservatives, the Republican Party. Okay. If we want to have that debate another day, is there a different party? I don't know. But right now, at least for the time being,
not today, there's not.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we got. So we got to clean it up.
Yeah. And by the way, for the listening audience, because I believe I'll probably end up being short on time, I showed Marjorie Taylor Greene's X post about the MAGA paid for accounts. I got Nick Fuentes breakdown of this last night. He probably sees the same stuff that I'm seeing, since he has a big X account too. But this stuff has been going on for years, folks. It's been going on for years now. And you're kind of touching into it on the different subject matters, but directly how it looks like. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see another one in defense of Susie Wiles. We had the Vanity Fair debacle. Is Susie Wiles as cemented in this administration as she can be? I mean, Trump seems to be fairly confident with her work, and it doesn't seem that he's interested in getting rid of her. And I'm guessing she doesn't want to go anywhere either.
She's the most powerful woman in the world. Okay, You tell me, if she's the most powerful woman in the world, why does she need some dingleberry secretary, Alex Bruzewitz, who somehow caught a rocket to the top of the, JD Vance world or whatever? Why does she need him retweeting articles about how she's in the top 40 or 50 women, powerful women? She's the chief of staff to the president of the United States. You don't have to go ask Alex Bruzewitz for retweets if you're the chief of staff to the president of the United States.
You know what's even crazier about that to me? Why is the chief of staff even thinking about a repost on X?
Right.
It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
Right.
And so it shows that there's a priority in the White House, which is not getting things done. The priority is optics.
Correct. You can put your finger on it. And so she was really upset when she's texted me. We've been texting back and forth. She usually takes my calls whenever I call her, Owen, until probably the last time was last July or maybe early August.
Do you want to sing a song or something? Do you want to do you want to try to serenade her here? What can we do to try to rekindle this fire?
I don't know any good Susie songs. Susie Q kind of goes pretty well, actually.
Maybe.
Yeah. So look, she was angry with me with my last interview that I did. I think I did it over with the guys at Redacted back around Thanksgiving time. And I'm not always on these shows. I'm not always on TV. I got 6 kids, Owen, 12 and under. I'm busy. I'm a dad. And I do what I can for the country when I can. And I try to be efficient. And this is the most efficient route that I see is we've got to get the top of the White House sorted out. We got to get rid of the guys that run the PPO office are selling us out to India, period, point blank. I mean, the last guy that left PPO, Sergio Gore, is now ambassador to India. But we need them. We need the workers. Americans don't know how to do it.
That's what's so crazy about this to me too. And look, I don't really, some of it's blood sport, some of it's fun, but then at the end of the day, I mean, we're trying to save the country. I mean, I really believe that that's what we have to do. We have to save the country. We have to save humanity. I think there's an agenda to destroy America and destroy humanity and enslave it. You can't do it if America is strong. So it's like, that's what drives me. But I'm just looking at this last night. It's like, oh gosh, now I got to fight this MAGA cult. And Trump says, we're only hiring American. They gave 120,000 H-1B visas to work in these new tech sector jobs, 120,000. And if you want to retort and say that's down from the 360,000 or whatever it was from the year before, hey, that's fine. That's fine. I deal in fact. It is way down. It is way down from the Biden years. And American workers getting hired is up over foreign workers getting hired. That's true. But don't come out there and tell me we're only hiring American when it's just a lie, when it's just a flat out lie.
Yep, that's right. And so it's an optics game. So that, to your point, it's all optics. She goes on this crazy tour. That's what they're worried about. She hits the New York Times, CNN, Axios, NBC, Guardian, ABC, Vanity Fair. She's Morning Joe. I mean, it's like it was a nuts media blitz. That's what she's worried about. When you're when you're doing like TV every day, you're not doing anything else. You're just not effectively, at least. Yeah, right. That's right. And so that's the chief of staff to the White House doing this. And so and look, we were texting back, and I'm telling her, hey, we got to fix this Tina Peters problem. I got a list. I handed her a demand list. I'm like, come on, Susie, let's go. Let's get busy. And she's texting me, what pardon are you talking about? And she didn't even know about the Tina Peters pardon.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And by the way, the pardon was a mess up. It's a huge flub up because it now gives pretext for there to be some kind of federal, violation where there was none before. We got problems, big problems, Owen, and we got to fix them.
Well, I also, you follow Trump long enough, and then you study him as president, you start to learn how he operates and why he does the things he does. And I start to think that, he's very selective. Sometimes maybe he's very selective about who he brings on. Whereas it's like, I think he has somebody like Pam Bondi up there, or he has somebody like Susie Wiles up there, because it's easy to blame them for everything. It's easy when things don't go right or when things don't get done, it's easy for everybody to just blame Bondi or blame Wiles. And I think Trump kind of uses that as a protection mechanism.
Hey, let's hope so, and let's hope he gets it right. Last time we had a Trump administration, we got a couple different iterations, and it wasn't until the last year where he brought in McEntee, and we actually had a PPO, Presidential Personnel Office, that was hiring decent people, and we got 1 year of kind of an okay. But now, look, we're going to lose 2026. We're going to lose, in all likelihood, we're going to lose 2028 at this rate, and well, certainly if we lose 2026, that has got to go on Susie. And by the way, she should get no credit for 2024's win. None. That's just like we said, it's a total veto on, Joe Biden. Total referendum on Joe Biden.
I would say 95% of people that voted for Trump didn't even know who Susie Wiles was in 2024.
Yeah, right. Yeah, at least. Yep.
So obviously that's a ridiculous claim that she would try to make.
Yeah. So, and she's got, like I said, she's got all her chattering class out there, trying to give her attaboys out there on the Twitter space. And that's what they're worried about. And so instead of actually, like, Trump should be using his megaphone, Trump should be calling on Congress to actually deliver some good legislation to his desk. That's what the boss should do. I haven't heard one time, have we heard Donald Trump say, I'm calling on little Mikey Johnson to deliver me a bill that bans H-1B scams or bans, profiteering and the racketeering and the price fixing that destroyed our economy and drove our prices through the roof in the last 5 years. One time. I haven't heard that.
Well, we got plenty of money for foreign aid, so that's what the priority seems to be with this administration. And Susie Wiles herself, she likes to take a lot of credit for that. She's directly involved in that, even.
Yep. So you've probably covered it, but there's another 800 billion or whatever the number is, not billion, 800 million.
800 million for Ukraine, and I forget the number for Israel in that.
650, another 650 for Israel.
Yeah.
Just absurd numbers, and zero for America. No, it's ridiculous. There was another $1 trillion defense bill. That was the trillion. There's a $1 trillion defense bill, I think, that got signed. They're gonna have 6G next, Owen. So they can have 3D surveillance.
Trump thought that was he thought 6G was a video aspect. Like, he thought it was the advance from 4K. So he was a little confused. He was a little confused when that question got asked to him in the media.
And they're going to be tracking down more domestic terrorists. So that's us,
Oh, I actually said that the other day. I think, I was politically persecuted and imprisoned by the Biden administration. I feel like now the odds are the same thing might happen to me from this administration. I'm starting to think Trump might actually cancel the next election and just say, nope, I'm just going to cancel it and stay president. That's kind of the trend. Netanyahu does it. Zelensky does it, and he funds them. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump just does that. If Adelson tells him to do it, he probably will. Otherwise, I'd say we're 100% at this point, at least. You're looking at a Gavin Newsom. You're looking at a Gavin Newsom AOC ticket, I would say, is my theory right now, where I would say I wouldn't be even surprised. Let's see what happens with Mamdani. Don't be surprised if Mamdani decides he might want to run for president in a couple of years and maybe team up with an AOC or something. The new generation of Democrats are going in a totally different direction. They've shown the signs. They're bucking the establishment left. They're trying to take out the past generational leadership of the Democrat Party, and they're going to try to do it in 2026. And I think it's going to be successful for them. I actually do. I think it's going to be very successful for them. And the only way we can stop that is for Trump to actually make deep state arrests, have real economic reform, tax cuts, stopping the foreign aid, stopping the money for foreign wars. But if all of this stuff continues, yeah, I'd say Democrats 2026, Democrats 2028. And the only chance we would have is Trump just canceling elections and declaring himself president again.
Which I don't know if we need to get into that now. You've got Rubio, by the way.
I've said enough.
Yeah, Rubio. Susie's told me herself years ago. Rubio's her guy. She told me, and they had a big plans for Rubio. They were going to move him up to Senate Majority Leader. I think he got a better gig probably where he's at Sec State, because they're clearly planning to kind of move him forward for the presidency. And I think they're going to try to sort of like, leapfrog JD Vance with Rubio. And so there's going to be this fight brewing between Rubio and JD Vance. And, you got to have a lot of questions about JD Vance too. I know he works for the boss. It's at some point, like Bongino's doing, you got to at least have one shred of dignity. But the longer Bongino stayed in this gig, he would have, lost all credibility and never been able to podcast again.
Well, I wonder what's going to happen when he goes back virtually empty-handed. And the craziest thing is, and I got this in my stack today too, I don't know why Tim Pool is running a major defense or celebration of Dan Bongino. I guess maybe they're friends or he's looking for access for the first interview, maybe. I don't know. But Pool is like running this positive Bongino content right now. And I'm just sitting here and I'm saying, if Dan Bongino thinks he can do more for the country as a podcaster than the FBI deputy director, I'd say that's a pretty telling thing. I'd say that's a red flag alert type of a thing. And I think maybe part of the reason why Trump was so off last night is because maybe now he's even afraid that Bongino is the first to leave, but maybe that'll start the trend. Maybe that'll open the floodgates and others will start to leave too, because Bongino either figured, in my opinion, there's nothing I can do here, and it's better for me to be back at my podcast, or he figured, as you're suggesting, the longer that I stay here, the harder it's going to be for me to go back to my podcast. So that's going to be an interesting thing to watch develop in the next month when he does go back to his show, and how he decides to deliver that first message to his audience, which is going to be virtually empty-handed.
Well, and we saw their tweets, Cash and maybe Dan did a few of these too. They're like late in the last month, maybe or two. Well, we did lots of stuff to try to track down Thomas Crooks and investigate the Butler assassination attempt. And then they had a list on their Twitter about how many interviews they did or whatever. And it's like, dude, the internet has you guys beat. Like, the guy was in DC like double-digit times, I believe, with at least one of his cellular devices. And it's like, wait. So it just stopped there. And so what we're looking at, again, like I said, the wholesale selling out, just rug pull of American citizens, by this kind of like, elite class, if that's what you want to call them, these lobbyist people, these people who manage to get into these positions of patronage. Okay. And they're selling us out, and they're okay, literally just making $1 million to sell out. How many trillions of dollars is this country actually worth, right? All of its people, all of its resources.
Wait a second. Did you get your 10X on the Trump coin?
No. I don't go in for government scams, period.
You missed out on the bull run?
I skip all government scams. I'm out.
Dang, you missed out, man. That Trump coin run was great till they rug pulled it. They made a bunch of money.
Yep, I'm out on all that stuff. But the crazy part is now, I mean, just out in the open, you've got the Israelis obviously doing a whole bunch of lobbying with AIPAC. There is this controversy around Qatar, however you want to say it. We're training their Air Force out in Colorado or whatever. We are the largest air base in the entire Mideast is in Qatar. And then Israel bombs Doha, which is in Qatar.
It's the most strategic airbase. It's the most strategic airbase. Here's how I would say it. You ready for this one? This is going to send them. You ready? Here's how I say Qatar or Qatar. Here's how I say it. You ready for this? I pronounce it like this. Greatest ally. That's how I say it.
Right. I get it.
Greatest ally. That's how I pronounce it.
If I got to ask though, are they on the side of BRICS, or because I've got some reporting that we're going to put up out there on the internet soon that shows that Israel is actually supportive of BRICS, the BRICS nations, which of course are antithetical to the dollar. Yes, sir, Owen. I'll send that to you when I get it out. And
well, they just play off everybody. I mean, it's clear Israel. I mean, this is the honest truth. And of course, if we lived in a world where everybody acted as the Israelis do, then you'd probably have nuclear war, and who knows what would come after that. But I will say, there's no doubt that they are the most tribal and they fight harder for their cause than any other country. It's not even close. I wish we had leadership that fought as hard for America as Israel's fights for Israel. Now I don't want us, killing 30,000 women and children, but you get the point. Like, they don't take any crap. Our countries sell us out. The Western countries, European leaders, America's leaders, they've sold us out. They just sell us out. Meanwhile, Israel is only acting in Israel's interest. As far as Israel is concerned, there is nobody else. It's only them. And they only act in their interest. So they play off everybody. I wish our country did business that way. But instead, our country's a bunch of political whores and sellouts. And so here we are talking about it. The good news is Mamdani is not legally able to run for president. But these days, who really knows?
Yeah, right. We had Barack once, and what a mess that was. And is Sheriff Joe? Sheriff Joe is still with us. Sheriff Joe had the original paperwork, and I wish that Sheriff Joe would have gotten his fair shake. I think he was a great man.
Yeah.
The way that the selling out that you're talking about plays out, though, Owen, is just, it's actually extremely dangerous, right? I mean, here we are, we're looking at what appears to be state level operators on U.S. soil. I hope they're not United States operators. Some of Candace Owens' reporting has seemed to indicate that maybe there's some United States complicity in what happened to Charlie Kirk. I really hope that's not the case. However, it seems very clear that there are state level operations going on here on U.S. soil to carry out plans like what happened with Charlie Kirk. Certainly what happened in Butler. The crazy guy that got arrested near the golf course down in Mar-a-Lago, that guy, he was a United States citizen, but he was also very deeply tied to Ukraine. Okay.
Yeah. And Zelensky came out in a recent speech, and basically it sounded like he's insinuating that Trump is going to be killed soon. So it's like, holy smokes, a lot of weird stuff is going on. Noel, I've got to bounce. Noel Frisch, nationalfile.com. A lot of great reporting over there, including the story on Susie Wiles. Noel, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Owen. You're great.
All right, there goes Noel. Yeah, great reporting over there at National File. They've been doing good work over there for a while. I want to get back into the news here, as we do have a guest coming up in the next hour. But this is Trump's vanity project, Trump everything. And when you study this media Truth Social thing, it's actually even wilder because it's been like a chameleon and how much it's merged and changed and been used for different purposes over the years. So here's the latest. Trump social media venture strikes $6 billion merger deal with Fusion Power Company, Trump Media and Technology Group. So originally this was just for Truth Social, and then it's turned into a bunch of different things, and they've made tons of money. Trump Media and Technology Group has agreed to a more than $6 billion merger with Fusion Company TAE Technologies. I wonder how much of that money was from the Trump coin rug pull. President Trump's social media startup plans to merge with Fusion Company TAE Technologies in a deal valued at more than $60 billion. The all-stock transaction marks the latest twist surrounding Trump Media and Technology Group, the publicly traded parent company of Truth Social that has become a new pillar in Trump's business empire over the last 2 years. Trump, who is the largest owner with more than 114 million shares, saw the value of his stake jump by about 400 million to about 1.6 billion with the 35% rally in the stock market midday. All right. So this is more of just Trump utilizing his position and his name to enrich himself and his family. And he's kind of what was originally with Truth Social, the parent company, is now merged and it's doing other tech, and now it's into energy and it's doing all kinds of stuff. Let me just kind of fast forward to this. So is it a coincidence? You may have heard about this. It's hard to believe in any coincidences as this massive energy deal is going down. This gentleman, you heard about the MIT nuclear professor who got killed in his home. Nobody knows anything about that, just dead. And now Israel is involved. What? Israel comes out and says Iran did it, no proof. Israel investigating whether Iran was involved in the murder of MIT nuclear professor Nuno Loririo. Israeli officials are reportedly investigating any links between Iran and the murder of MIT nuclear physics professor who specialized in nuclear science. Why? I got to tell you, folks, that has to be the most suspicious thing. It's like I wouldn't even have thought of Israel once. If I even would have thought conspiracy here, I would have thought energy. I would have thought, gas companies or something else. This is an energy deal. I mean, this guy getting killed in his house is very suspicious, folks. This looks like a professional hit. But nobody really knows anything. And then Israel just comes out of nowhere and says, it was Iran and we're going to investigate. What? You're going to investigate, or are you going to cover up? This has to be the craziest thing. Remember when the bad intelligence from Israel was given about the drones and they said, these are Iranian drones. Yeah, that was bad Israeli intelligence given to members of Congress intentionally. And now they're doing the same thing. Professor Nuno Loririo, 47 years old, was gunned down in his Brookline, Massachusetts apartment on Monday with little progress made so far in solving his murder. This looks like a hit. Again, I don't think about Israel. I'm thinking, this looks like an energy deal, And then Israel's like, we're coming in to investigate. No, that sounds like you coming in to cover it up. Why would you be involved? Does it have something to do with this merger? Yeah, I know. This is how crazy we are. Crazy like a fox. Well, here's a little bit about the professor. He was a professor and director of MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center, studied nuclear fusion, energy source of the sun and stars, for 10 years at MIT. His award-winning work focused on creating a virtually limitless clean energy source on Earth, one that doesn't produce carbon or radioactive waste, using byproduct of fission reactors. His research was essentially a threat to companies in the energy sector, fossil fuels, wind, solar, etc. Nuno was vital to the development of fusion nuclear power plants. Without him, the path ahead is less clear, and his death will set back the entire field. Nuno is not the first MIT fusion scientist to be brutally murdered. In 2004, Eugene Malov was also shot in his home. I hope this opens eyes. There is an agenda at play. So that was my first instinct, obviously, was this is some energy hit. This isn't the first time we've seen it. He represented a threat to these energy sources that make trillions of dollars. Clean, cheap energy. He's a threat. So they took him out. It's not the first time. Might not even be the last time. And then Israel's like, we're going to get involved and look at this too. And it's Iran. And I'm like, wait, what the hell? What the hell? Now I'm suspicious. And how could I not be? Because you just lie about Iran with everything. And now you want to get involved? What? To me, that screams that you want to get involved to cover it up, or to get involved to see what they know and what they don't know. Out of nowhere, here comes, we're going to investigate. Where was Israel at the southern border when it was being invaded? Did you send the IDF to our southern border to help us stop the invasion? Where's Israel on the investigation of the multiple assassination attempts into Donald Trump or Charlie Kirk? Oh, no. But, we got to come in here. This is Iran. We're coming in to do it. What? That's insane to me. But that's what it is. All right, so the Trump energy deal, soon there'll be a Trump energy. They'll probably just call it Trump energy. That's what they're going to end up calling it, I bet you. It's all vanity projects. It's all just put Trump's name on everything and sell it to the sheeple. MAGA. I got my Trump vodka. I got my Trump shoes. I got my Trump NFT. I got my Trump coin. I got my Trump watch. I'm going to the Trump Center tonight. MAGA. They renamed the Kennedy Center. It's the Trump Center now, guys. This is unreal. There is no limit to this man's narcissism or ego. Zero limits. Kennedy Center to be renamed the Trump Kennedy Center, White House says. And then when are they going to strike Kennedy from the name? Maybe 2028 before he leaves, they'll just say, no, it's the Trump Center now. We got a ballroom, man. We're winning all right. Hey, so check this out. With all the really bad economic news, and with obviously Americans struggling financially right now, and the Trump administration needing a win desperately, they come out and they post this number about inflation. And they say, oh, inflation is down. Look at this number. And say, oh, okay. Okay. It's not as bad. Inflation isn't as bad as it was when Biden got into office. And you know, it's funny too. Let me just give you a little truth serum, a little uncomfortable truth serum here, guys. Biden inherited a mess too. And, you know, I'd say it's open for debate, and it's not there's no simple conclusion here, but let's just be honest. What Trump did in 2020 in response to COVID and shutting down the economy and sending out the stimulus and the PPP and everything else, that's what did the permanent damage, folks. That was Trump. That was Trump policy. Now, Biden didn't make it any better. Biden made it worse. There's no doubt about that. But when Trump sits here and says, oh, I inherited a mess, Trump literally gave the country over to Biden after he shut it down. And we had the COVID era economic policies that did permanent damage to our economy. Folks, that's the truth. That is the truth. Now, that's no endorsement of Biden. And Biden is just as much to blame because he went for the ride and made it worse. But do not kid yourself. That's where this starts, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to talk about the inflation and you want to talk about the permanent damage done to our economy, that starts from Donald Trump in 2020 with the response to COVID. So, okay, they put out the inflation numbers and they say, see, the inflation is great. It's actually down. Well, look what happens when you go and dig into the data that they're providing here. They didn't even give you the data. So here's where they're compiling this data from. Okay? See, they left it all out. They left out the numbers. They only gave you they handpicked which numbers they want to give you to get the best result, folks. So this is the chart where they derive it from. Here's where they normally derive numbers on inflation. Here's all the different metrics that they derive it from. And then look at October, November, and they say, see, inflation is down because you're not giving us the real data. You're literally hiding the data. They literally chose which data to give to get the best possible result. And they could still only give you 2.7%. Think about it like that. They literally rigged the data to get the best desired number, and they could still only get 2.7%. So no, I don't know who knows what the real inflation number is, but that 2.7 number that they're selling you as a victory is a complete and total hoax. And there's the graph to prove it. So that's what I'm saying, folks. You have a choice, okay? You have a choice. I choose to be honest. I choose to be honest. I choose to tell the truth, whether I like it or not. I do political play-by-play. I call it as it is on the field. And to those that aren't interested in that, that's your choice. But don't get mad at us for telling the truth. Don't get mad at us and say, oh, you're not MAGA and you don't support Trump. You know what? Reach whatever conclusion you want. I tell the truth. And look what happens. And look what happens just this week. Look what happens when they call me a liar and I challenge them on it. Look what happens. They can't. They can't because I don't lie. They just don't like the truth. So what is the real inflation? Now, take this as you want, but this is a gentleman who goes shopping at the same Costco who happened to document the prices of food 1 year ago today and then document the price of food today. And I don't literally mean today, but, generally. So this is year over year prices at Costco. And you can see for yourself. Now, does this equal all the inflation numbers or prove any singular thing? No, but it definitely shows you that the price of food and groceries and inflation is not going the right direction. It's going the wrong direction badly.
So I'm walking around Costco here and I'm noticing these prices. For example, these Madras lentils, $15.99. I bought those a year ago for $6.99. I keep getting told that we got, 6-7% inflation. You got to be kidding me. Let's look at what else we got going on here. We literally bought this chicken broth, $5.69, 2 months ago.
So he's just documenting all of this.
Dang, this is the flour we were buying for $5.99 last year.
Just showing the prices going up.
So I'm walking around Costco here and
So there you go. Guys, look, I'm rooting for Trump, all right? I put 10 years of my life believing that this was our political solution. 10 years of my life. It's not about me. I made those choices. But the point is we struggled and we suffered and we did all of this to get here. I'm rooting for Trump. I'm rooting for the administration. But if they're not on our team anymore, then I'm not going to sit here and be a fool. I'm not going to sit here and get lied to. I don't care who the president is. I'm not going to get lied to, and I'm not going to let my audience get lied to. I'm not going to do it. And, that was my biggest frustration, I think. But it is what it is. People make their own decisions. But it's like, all right, Trump got corrupted. He's a politician now. He made his own decisions. He figured this is what he had to do in D.C. All right, whatever. Politicians get corrupted. It's like, I'm not that heartbroken over Trump. Honestly, I'm not. He's a politician. He's the president. He's in charge of his own legacy. And so politics corrupted him, or he's just a politician, whatever. I'm not even that. It's not even like I'm a heartbroken by a Trump thing. It's the fact that these people in this MAGA movement that claimed to be patriots, claim to be truth tellers, pretend to be all of these things, but now they're nothing more than propagandists. Now they're nothing more than propaganda water carrying liars. So it's like, hey, whatever, dude. We can go a different way politically if you want to support this. But now you want to attack me? Now you want to attack me? And I got all the same people in response to my coverage last night, posting about me on X, and I'm a Muslim. I'm a leftist. I'm all of this crap. Yeah. That's funny because there's one thing I am that you'll never be. And that's a political prisoner. And I guess that's how you stay out of prison politically, right? By just carrying water. Just eating and feeding slop. Not going to do that here. But I want to stop right there. I don't want to get on a tangent. I got to bring my next guest on. We take a short break. Anomaly coming up on the other side.
You're listening to the Owen Report on the Win Network.
No, que está. No one can stop this. No one can stop this. No one can stop this. No one can stop this.
All right, joining me now, friend of the show at Legendary Energy on X is Anomaly. And I want to talk about Trump's speech last night, and I want to get your take on it. So let's start there. What did you think about that speech last night? And then I think from there, we'll talk about the reaction to it. But what was your interpretation and your response to watching and hearing Trump speak last night?
I'm not even going to lie. I didn't even watch it. I was kind of watching the reaction to it, and it seemed like he just rolled all his True Social like posts into a speech. But yeah, I didn't even listen to it, to be honest.
So let's talk reaction then. We can jump right into reaction. Honestly, you didn't mitch much. It was mostly copy and paste from, his last 20 speeches, and then they announced a 1776 bonus for the military, which actually I'm finding out was kind of a lie. They actually already had that cooked into the books. They already cooked that into the budget with the omnibus bill. So it wasn't even a new thing. So he even kind of lied about that too.
Yeah, I was just watching a few clips and the reactions and stuff. But once I saw the people that I trust and the people that seem like they tell the most truth saying it seemed like recycled, the same things he was saying, I was like, I'll spare 30 minutes. I'll just watch some UFC podcast or something.
Yeah, well, you didn't miss much. Here's where I'm watching this, and I kind of saw this for years, and you've always been able to kind of split the difference. You've always been able to split the difference here. But what I noticed, it's like, I'm somebody that's been on the right. I think it would be fair to say, especially with my support for Trump since 2015. I don't like being put in a box, but okay, you can say I've been on the right, and politically I probably am. But I remember we would sit here, whether it was the Obama years or the Biden years, and we'd watch these speeches from Obama, from Biden, or even a Gavin Newsom, and we'd see the left respond to it, and we'd be like, wait a second, did we even watch the same video? Like, this is weird. It's like we didn't even watch the same video. Now that's happening on the right, and last night was the big moment where you had all the MAGA cheerleaders and sycophants talking about how great it was. Oh my gosh, they're overwhelmed. And then meanwhile, I'm watching this like, wait a second, what did you see? Do we even live in the same world?
Right. I saw two responses back to back in my feed, and I thought it was so perfect. It was two Daily Wire employees. One of them was Michael Knowles, and he was like, it was such a brilliant move from Trump to beat the media or whatever. And then Matt Walsh tweeted out, that was one of the most pointless press conferences I've ever seen in my life. So I was like, I trust Matt a lot more than Michael Knowles as far as like, him saying it was pointless. And yeah, at this point, I think it's like the Trump butt sniffers versus people who are being honest. And even putting like Andrew Jackson, he put his name in the plaque of Andrew Jackson, and people are freaking out on my Facebook where they're way more pro-Trump, and they're like, anomaly, why does it matter? And I'm like, do you not see how ridiculous it is for a president like hundreds of years old to insert your own name in a paragraph about them? Like, you weren't even alive on this earth when they were serving. He can't even talk about Andrew Jackson without putting himself in there. He's like ridiculous now. It's kind of funny, but it's also kind of sad. Like, it depends how you look at it.
Well, it might be funny if we weren't 40 trillion in debt. It might be funny if our military wasn't being used to secure oil deals for oil companies. It might be funny if we aren't giving billions of dollars to foreign countries where millions of people are dying because of it. Then it might be funny. Then it might be funny if Americans weren't broke and struggling. But all of those things are true, and so it's not so funny. And it's really becoming this vanity project. And I'm sitting here and I look at those plaques, and isn't it the same thing too? You bring it up. It's like, I see this. They're like, oh my gosh, Trump butt sniffers. That's a good one. I don't know. That one might hit them a little too close to home. But
Yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh, look at the plaques. Oh, this is so great. And I'm just like, what are you? Why? What is so great about that? Tell me what these plaques accomplish.
No,
Nothing.
for sure. And I think that little thing he had where he brought Miriam Adelson on the stage, and he was saying that he took $250 billion, and that sort of him talking about the Israeli lobby. And I'm just going to quote Trump, because obviously, like me or you can't say this. It's like terrible anti-Semitism when we say it, but Trump said it, so I'm going to quote him. He called it the Jewish lobby. And to me, that was the big story of the week, him admitting that the Israeli lobby is powerful when I was told it doesn't exist and I'm an anti-Semite. Like that to me supersedes like a Gunther Eagleman or a cat turd. Like, this is the greatest speech I've ever heard, coach. It's like, get in the ball game, champ. You're a sport. I don't know. These people, the reason I laugh is because I don't know. It feels like the same story on loop. So I almost become part of it if I don't at least try to find some humor in it, because I think the tragedy of it's obvious, and it's almost like these people never change. But a lot of people are waking up, and I'm sure you see it as well. So that's okay.
Well, there's no doubt that this administration is spurring an awakening in a very unorthodox way. It's so heavy to me that I'm just sitting here wondering, because I like to look at all the different angles and ask all the questions. And that's why I say anybody that tells you not to ask questions doesn't want you to be knowledgeable, doesn't want you to be informed, doesn't want you to expand your consciousness, really wants you to be enslaved, quite frankly. So you always got to ask questions, even the ones you don't like the answers to, even the questions you don't like. And I'm just like, dude, this thing is so over the top now. I almost can't believe it's not intentional. I'm like, how could Trump possibly expose the Israeli lobby more than he has? It's like, if he actually tried to do it, I don't know how he could do it better than the way he's done it. It's like, I'm just like, this has to be intentional. It's that bad.
I want to bring up two options, because I talked about it in my live stream yesterday, and I'm not giving Trump a pass. Me and you were very, critical of Trump. But there's two options. Either he's so into it that he just doesn't even notice he's doing it, like he thinks he's bragging about it, or it really could, like you said, kind of be an intentional cry for help. Because when he talked about Sheldon Adelson, he was saying how aggressive he was at the White House. And I think he said something like, he really cared about Israel. That's all he really cared about. And like, it almost kind of seems like hey guys, this is what's really going on. But the only way I could tell you is if I like make a joke out about it. I'm like, you're the best, and this is all she cares about. They only care about this. I swear, guys. So
Yeah, like
maybe Trump really is a genius, and he's helping us. You know.
You remember when you were like raping me in bed last night? You remember that, guys? Guys, he was raping me in bed last night.
I mean, anything is definitely possible, but it's hard to tell with Trump. That's what makes him such an interesting character. Like whether you love him or hate him, he really is a fascinating like human being. Even putting his name in an Andrew Jackson statue, it's ridiculous, it's obnoxious, but it's like, who else would do that? Like Trump really is a one of one. He's like a cartoon character.
I actually am Andrew Jackson. There was no Andrew Jackson. It was me. I was leading the Trail of Tears. That was my idea. Well, he seems to he seems to be into this new vanity at the White House. I've never seen anything like it. It's worse than Obama, where it's just like label everything Trump. You got Trump RX, you got Trump Ballroom, you got the Trump Center now, you got a Trump coin, a Trump watch, a Trump shoe, and it's always been his branding thing. And he's always been consistent. He likes to keep his people guessing and, kind of chaotic. He's always operated in that environment. I just feel like it's kind of like what you said. It almost feels like it's gotten to his head to such a degree that he can't. I don't know if it's a gatekeeping issue or it's just he's so high on the supply right now that he's just completely out of touch with his base.
Yeah, I mean, I think Trump is the type of person that if you challenge him, you can't work for him. So he's definitely surrounded himself by people who, are just yes men. I did a video on Dan Bongino today because he's leaving the FBI, and I was going through old clips, and Dan said getting the vaccine was one of the worst mistakes he's made. He regrets it. And his logic behind it was that, the vaccine's American and he thought the virus was China. So like America versus China. And I was like, wow, that's really dumb. But then I saw him interview Trump and he was like, my friend told me, make sure you get credit for the vaccine, not Biden. And I'm like, dude, you said it was the biggest regret of your life. Like, why wouldn't you in an interview with Trump be like, hey, I'm not as big of a fan of the product as you are, but that's the type, like these people say getting that was the worst decision of their life. They feel like it affected them negatively. Yet when they talk to him, they're like, sir, yes, sir. It's like everybody acts like dogs. They act like dogs for Trump. And then Trump and his administration acts like dogs, for the lobby that must not be named. That doesn't exist, but also does exist, so.
Well, that's exactly what it is. And you bring that up. It kind of brings me back to this point now, because obviously I was way more ingrained and invested in MAGA than you were. So for me to go against the grain now, it's a totally different process than for you, who's been a little more consistent as far as that. I posted this video. This was 2 days ago, but I also did a video 2 weeks ago. And I think it was actually 2 months ago after Charlie got shot, where I had somebody that was like, yeah, Bongino was planning to leave and then Charlie got shot. And he said, okay, I have to stick around for this investigation. And then it was 2 weeks ago, somebody said, okay, get ready. The announcement is coming. And then 2 days ago, I had another source tell me it's a done deal. It's over. So I posted this. This was December 16th. And I think actually the show was from the 15th. I posted this on the 16th. Owen Schroyer discusses Dan Bongino's likely resignation from the Trump administration. And you look at the MAGA responses to this, and it's, you're a liar, you're fake news, you're this, you're that. And I'm like, okay, you know what? If I doubted my sources, I wouldn't be telling you this, but that's fair. All right. You want to attack me? And it's just like, and then here we are. And I was totally proven right. And it wasn't me. I just have sources. I just had good sources that told me that I trust. And I end up being right. And it's just like, why do these people, that's what's so crazy about it to me. It's like now MAGA is attacking the truth tellers.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've seen it for years because during the lockdown, a lot of Q people thought the lockdown was a good thing because I remember being like, wait, this is not good. But the whole Q, even though there was a lot of truth sprinkled in, it was kind of like Trump's the good guy. Martial law's the time when he's going to arrest the pedos. So when the lockdown happened,
the arrests were going down. Yeah, well, that didn't work out, huh?
Yeah, so they were bugging out at me for like 2 months in the craziest manner, like during the lockdown, where I'm like, yo, this is bad news, guys. And they're like, if you report against it, you're getting in the way. And I was like, holy crap, these people are cooked. And then it was like Operation Warp Speed was secretly a good thing. I've heard it for so long. I guess it doesn't shock me anymore. But, there's a huge kind of curve happening because Trump used to be kind of a big tent for everybody. Like, even though he went at Massey during the lockdown, he ended up, I think, endorsing Massey in the next election. So Trump would always like throw his weight, but then be like, okay, like I'm a big tent for Lindsey Graham and Marjorie Taylor Greene. And even though I don't like Lindsey Graham, I'm a rational person. It's like, I get it. Trump's got to play the game a little bit. But now when he's like, I'm endorsing Lindsey Graham, but I'm going to try to run Marjorie Taylor Greene, Rand Paul, Thomas Massey out of office. I have 2 mega donors, Elon Musk, Miriam Adelson. He has more, but I'm just saying those 2. Elon runs out of the White House realizing Trump's not serious about the deficit and says he's in the Epstein files. Miriam Adelson and Dershowitz want him to have a 3rd term. Like, when you start seeing this dichotomy, Trump stopped pretending to be a big tent for MAGA and people like Marjorie. And he's basically like, you're with me or you're against me. And with me is Rubio and Graham now. So I think that's like the big difference where people are turning on you even harder. Trump's taking these harder stances and isolating the people that we like. So then we voice our opinions about it. And you really see who's like brainwashed. Because there's a lot of people on my page that are like, I voted for Trump 3 times and he's really pissing me off. And I'm like, that's what's up. But then there's like the, they listen to like Cat Turd and they're like, Owen, how dare you? How dare you make sense? I don't want to hear it now. And you're like, whoa.
Well, and I look at all of this now through the lens of the Epstein files, and you bring up, and I understand now why Trump may be less inclined to kind of run with the big tent, like, okay, we'll go with the people on the right, like the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, and we'll go with the people on the right, like the Lindsey Grahams. Now, I mean, theoretically, he's a dead duck president. Half of me thinks that they're going to cancel the election and Adelson is just going to make him run again. But, maybe I say that in jest. We'll see. But no, now it's like, okay, he's a lame duck president. He can't run again. So now he doesn't need to do the big tent stuff. Now he can do the stuff that he's supposed to be doing for the donor. So yeah, now it's like, get rid of MTG, get rid of Thomas Massey, get rid of Rand Paul. These are the people he's campaigning against while he's endorsing Lindsey Graham. I mean, if that doesn't tell you enough already, I don't know what does. But what do all these things have in common? Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene. These are some of the people on the right that are pushing the hardest for the Epstein files. And so I'm sitting here now and you watch Trump kind of running cover for the whole thing now, calling it a hoax. And now I'm sitting here, I'm running, how much do the Epstein files really play into all of this? It's like, sometimes I'm like, okay, are we overplaying this hand? And then other times I'm like, are we actually underplaying this hand? People, let's not forget, Epstein died in the prison cell when Trump was president.
Right.
And so I can't help, my mind goes these places. I go through, it's like, in a video game or something, when you look at every single part on the map, that's, if I'm playing a video game, I look at every single part on the map. There's not a single part on the map I'm not going to explore. So I'm exploring every part of the map. And now I'm like, did Trump give the hit on Epstein? Like, was Trump part of the hit on Epstein? And then, of course, here comes Bongino and Patel. Of course, they're going to go in front of the media and say, oh, yeah, nothing to see with the Epstein thing. Nothing to see here. It's like, how much do you think we put too much into the Epstein files, or do you think that really is a thread that kind of ties all this together?
I want to use a quick example because it's similar to the Epstein thing. I saw somebody today, and then I'll answer your question. They were talking about the Venezuela stuff, and they showed an article, a Fox News article, where Biden was going after narco terrorists as well. And they said, see, the Democrats are liars. And I'm like, absolutely, they are liars. But here's what you don't understand. That just shows that Trump and Biden are not that different in foreign policy. And that's the real story, not the fact that Democrats are lying. Epstein files, same exact thing. Are Democrats lying? Of course, but like, we never thought they were going to release it because Democrats are fake. So, the Trump administration will say, well, the Democrats are lying about it. True. They don't actually care about it. Absolutely. They're pushing biased stuff through it to benefit them. Yes, they are. But, I truly think that with the Epstein stuff, there's a combination of both. I think some people, you could say whatever you want about Epstein and like, you sound like a truther, like you could make the craziest statement and it's like, oh, maybe, who knows, So there's part of that. But also I do think that like the big story, besides what everybody knows about Epstein, is how like important and powerful he was. I think it was Dershowitz who said that he was introduced to him by Lady and Lord Rothschild. So with Trump, I think everybody's kind of said, because they like Trump doesn't know anything, or he kicked him out of the club and they weren't really that good of friends, because that plays into the Trump narrative. But I think the truth is, this guy, it's hard to really describe, but it seems like he knew every powerful person, multiple people from foreign countries, like world leaders, top guys everywhere. It was introduced to someone by the Rothschilds. Like, clearly this guy was like a top power player. And I think Trump just doesn't want, he's like, oh, he wasn't that big of a factor. Like, I think he was, so when there's mystery, people just start filling in the gaps with whatever they want. So I do think there's probably some sloppy reporting being done by everybody, and honestly, probably some victims that are real, and then some that are, not. It's like, I don't really know because I haven't heard all the stories, but I'm sure a lot of them are telling the truth. Maybe some of them aren't, but at the end of the day, like, clearly he was a powerful player. Clearly he was playing a massive role, and I think that's why disclosure is not really coming fast, is because both sides are lying about it. Trump's saying this, Democrats are saying this, and it creates this kabuki theater where it's like they're lying, they're hypocrites. But I don't think Bill Clinton wants anything to come out any more than Trump does. So why didn't Democrats drop it? Why would they drop it? Like, that's not even a good talking point. Like, they want to show. It's not like Epstein only worked with Republicans. And I want to say that's the problem with not understanding this stuff. It's like, oh, the left has donors. So is the right. The left sold out to corporations. So's the right. Like, until you realize it's both parties doing a lot of this stuff, they play off each other. And it's like, oh, it's only Kamala and Biden. It's like, all right, probably not, but okay.
Well, and I forget the exact number, but when Epstein started up as a financier, he went from a teacher's aide at Bill Barr's dad's class. He was a teacher aide for Bill Barr, former Attorney General Bill Barr. He was his teacher aide for his father's class. I believe that was at Harvard. And he went from that to being a quote unquote financier. And then I think it was in the 80s. I think it was in the late 80s. He had his
it was the Dalton School. Sorry, I just looked it up. The Dalton School, not Harvard. That's where he taught.
So the Dalton School with Bill Barr's father. So he goes from that to this financier role, where this is where he starts to get connected to the elites of the world, as you were describing. And then I think it was in the early 80s or late 80s maybe. He had his pitch for his financier company was he only took clients that were billionaires. He only took clients that were billionaires. And I believe at the time there were only 13 billionaires in the world. So, I mean, it's literally the top of the financial pyramid that this guy was connected to. And now we get more of this stuff. We see him obviously with Trump, with Bill Gates. He was clearly the elite pimp. I mean, that would be he was the pimp for the elites. And maybe he was doing money washing for some of them. Maybe he was hooking them up with, a nice hooker that they could sleep with, that their wife wouldn't know, whatever, maybe a combination of the two. It's obvious this is what was going on. And I think about, obviously he was getting protected through the years, right? He was obviously getting protected. They kept spiking the cases. They kept getting him released from jail. And I'm just thinking, well, a guy like that in the 21st century, I think becomes more of a liability for them now, because they really don't need to run these pimp parties. They don't need to run these sex islands. They might still do it for fun, but for blackmail, now that everything is digital, now that you have everything digital on the internet, your social media profiles, everything you're doing, your browsing, every transaction you make, now they can just look at your digital life and easily blackmail people. They can find out if you're cheating on your wife. They can find out if you're gay. They can find out what you've been watching on the internet. They can find out if you've been doing anything illegal with money. They don't need an Epstein to do that anymore. So it's like his purpose was kind of retired. And so it's like, yeah, he's more of a liability now. Get him out of here.
It's definitely a possibility, because I think also when he's like recording everybody back in the day, that was harder to do. Not everyone had technology to record. Like, you had to be like a psycho or pretty much a cop or something to have that technology. So it's like nobody was really expecting it back then. Like, imagine partying in the 90s and 2000s. You're not even thinking of cell phones. Now everybody has cell phones. Everyone has spying devices, as you're saying. And just like that's true, I think it's also true that other people could probably catch him doing stuff a lot easier. Like, it was probably way easier to get away with, and nobody really knew about it 30 years ago. So it's definitely a possibility. One thing that I've thought, and this might not be popular to say because I don't know what everyone thinks. Like, obviously, I think some people were fooling around with women and girls in the presence of Epstein, no doubt. But I think everybody just assumes that everybody near him and everybody on his flight log was. And I think he probably did a combination of stuff. Like, some of it was financial. Some of it was just like, get these people, connect certain people, push people in a certain direction, lobby people, leverage people using other means as well. So I think the big story, at least for me, is like, I think he was playing a huge role in compromising people in every way possible. Not like, oh, he went on his flight 2 times, he's guilty, he's done stuff with girls. It's like, it's not necessarily true, but definitely Epstein was trying to get that person, or at least Epstein was trying to, in some way, like attach their life to his life, or their finances to something he wanted to do, or push them in the direction of people that he worked with. So it seems to me like he was even bigger than like just a pimp or something. Like he was so powerful. I mean, just the people who would sleep at his apartment and stuff like that, all that stuff that's coming out. I would love for more disclosure. I think that's why everybody's so fascinated in the Epstein files for many reasons. It's like, we really want to know what the heck was going on, even though I think pretty much every smart person that has an internet connection can pretty much figure out the gist of it at this point, except for the politicians. They're completely clueless. They just don't know. It's just the left. It's a Democrat hoax, or it's a Trump hoax because he wrote in a coloring book or signed a letter 50 years ago. Like, that's not the huge scoop.
It's actually insane. Like you said, when you just look into it, I mean, I would say 99.8% certainty that Epstein was obviously an intelligence asset, probably a double agent. Even to such a degree that he wielded power over the political leaders at certain periods of time. He had so much blackmail and power over everybody that financial and political leaders were actually basically answering to him, and emails and messages kind of proved that was the case.
Right. No, what I saw the one recently where they said like the one female Democrat was texting him during a congressional hearing, and she was like, oh, he's my constituent or whatever. It's like, bro, texting Epstein in the 2010s while you're in Congress, that's crazy. But that only scratches the surface, like you said, of the leverage he had over people. And I think that's really the game that certain people are playing. They're looking for massive leverage. And if you're a person that only does it for moral means, it's going to be hard to keep up with people that will literally, if they can't get financial leverage over you, or scare you or censor you, then I think they go to blackmail, where they're like, wait, you don't want to do number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Well, here's number 7. Okay, now you want to do number 5. And I think a lot of the war stuff is like that too. Like, people always talk about false flags, and it's hard to tell which one is real and not. And obviously back in the day, there's provable false flags. Like, not everything's just a stupid conspiracy theory. And I think there's an element of that in the world too, where it's almost like, like, do this war, or else we're going to find some way, whether it's the way they did it in Iraq, or, none of the stories really add up. They went to fight Al-Qaeda, but then an Al-Qaeda leader takes over Syria and then gets invited to the White House. The more you look into it, there's holes all over these stories, but I don't think the average person like wants to think that way. They're like, we're fighting radical Islam. It's like one of the most radical Islamic groups has a leader who was invited to the White House because he's reformed now. I guess 5 years goes by, he's not Al-Qaeda anymore. Good for him.
Well, it'd be like, imagine if somebody doesn't understand that they're looking at a puzzle and they just see the pieces, but they don't know what it is. They don't know that all the pieces put together a larger picture. So they just kind of look at each piece and then put it down. And then you're like, no, this is a puzzle. You put the pieces together. There's a bigger thing here. And they just don't even know it. They don't know what a puzzle is. They can't even comprehend there's another picture, and you're trying to explain it. And they just literally, there's just that disconnect. They don't even know what a puzzle even is.
Yeah, and I think to that note, okay, I thought you froze for a second, but some people have a bias, so they fill in pieces that aren't there. Where, like, for me, at least personally, I like Trump. I had a massive pro-Trump bias, right? 2017, 2018, 2019. It wasn't until somebody made a report about like Trump taking Miriam Adelson donor money in 2019, and I saw it, and it was kind of hard to admit. And I was like, dang, I didn't know. I thought he was so rich he didn't take people's money. So I was able to take that in and be like, well, I can't disprove that, so I guess I got to go with it. And I think most people, if they see something like that, they reject that piece of the puzzle because they're like, no. I just want to talk about like George Soros and the left, and I just want to talk about these donors and rhinos. So it takes a really honest person. And I saw you tweet something great the other night. I like a lot of your tweets. You seem like a really chill guy, but you're talking about self-awareness and self-accountability and discernment, where it's like, if you're a fool, you keep getting fooled. So it takes a really kind of disciplined person to admit when they're wrong, and also just adapt to new evidence. I think most people reject evidence that doesn't play into their bias.
You brought up some of the stuff that you theorize, how they get politicians to go along with war or other agendas. And, you might even have a better understanding of how that happens in the music industry. And we got a little bit of that. We got a kind of a keyhole view into that with some of the Diddy stuff and some of his former producers. But it's kind of a similar thing, I think, where a lot of people don't know how the music industry works. And you might even know, you might know better than me. But, you know, what they do is basically a lot of stuff. This is what actually what'll blow people's minds. A lot of the music that you hear from some of these popular artists, it's not even their music. It's literally not even their music. It's somebody else's music that these production companies buy, and they go to these smaller artists and they say, hey, you got a good song here, but you're a nobody, you're a nothing, you're never going to be famous. So we're going to purchase this from you, and we'll give you either a check or you'll get royalties, but we're going to have this star performer perform your song because you're never going to get rich off of it, but this is your way to do it. So that's one way they kind of do it. And then some of them go along with it, and then some of them say no. And then they might try to bring you to a party. And they might say, okay, well, he's not letting us have the music rights, but why don't we bring him to one of Diddy's parties, maybe? And maybe we can convince him that way. It's like, okay, you come to a party, we wine and dine you, and then we sit down the next day and we say, hey, you know, do you want to do business? You know, we can come party, come hang out with a guy. Do you want to do business? No, not really. I still don't want to do business. Really? Okay, pull in the TV. We're in the 90s here. Wheel in the TV. Go ahead and wheel in the TV. Hit plug in the VCR here. Plug in the videotape. Oh, yeah, you guys remember doing that last night? Yeah, that girl's actually 16 years old. Did you know that? Oh, golly, you didn't, did you? Okay, well, you got two options now. You can either let us buy your music, or I'll tell you what, we'll give you a record deal, and you can try to make your own music. And there have been producers that have come out and basically explained this, but it's like that's how they draw you in. It's like, hey, you can either do business with us now in this way, but if you say no, guess what? You're going to do business with us, but in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I could speak on what I know. I know there's a lot of people in the industry who tell their own stories, and I'm sure there's a lot of crazy stories, especially when you start getting power and you become a big artist. I think the pressure mounts a lot more than if you're like less relevant. But when it comes to the producer thing, a lot of producers have ghost producers as well, because, you know, if you can't get your beat placed, it's like, yo, sell it to me. I'll say it's mine. Same with a lot of songwriters. Like, it's just like, you know, give it to the big pop star. You get a cut of it. But for me, because I actually, and a lot of people don't actually believe me. They're like, oh, you're not that good or whatever. I had multiple different meetings with huge distributors, major labels that everybody's heard of. I'm not going to say. And I never got that far. And I would say it's nearly identical between this and conservative media podcasting. Everybody acts the same way. Basically, they bring me in and they say, hey, you know, because when I was 19, 20 years old, when YouTube first started, I had a couple million views. Jam Master Jay's sons from Run DMC were big fans of mine. So they brought me to labels and they were like shopping me around. And they'd basically be like, hey, you're cool. Why don't you rap about this? Well, why don't you dress up like this? And every time I would be like, do I have a say in this? Like, you know, I talked to somebody recently was a pop star, and he was saying like he didn't get to choose like anything. But I would just start being like, yeah, I don't think that's really who I am. And then they just be like, oh, well, we're not really that interested. We have other artists. And then I'm a strong person. So I'm like, well, I don't care. I believe in myself. I think I'm a star, even if you don't. And then they don't talk to you again. Same thing happened to me in conservative podcasting, where it's like a humiliation ritual game where they're like, we like you, but let's see how moldable you are. Let's see how much we could steamroll you, and you'll just kind of take it. And I feel like that's kind of how they play, who they give certain powerful positions to, especially like if they have like 50 people to choose from. It's like, will you do the first thing, which is like harmless? It's just like, you know, they're trying to just roll over you a little bit. Then will you do this? Then will you do this? And it's like a process. And it's the same with politics. You know, the type of people, I mean, they're all over Congress. They're all over the television. They're running for office. They're total puppets. They want power. They want fame. So they'll do anything. Like, I don't even know what it's like to be like a Byron Donalds. Sorry, Byron, for, you know, only naming him. But it's like, to me, he's like a total Trump donor type, like pawn. And he just does whatever they say. And that's the type of people they look for. And there's a lot of people like that. So for me, I never really got in the industry per se, because every time I got an opportunity, I wouldn't do what they said. They weren't telling me like, go to a Diddy party and let's compromise you. It was more like, you know, will you do this? Will you wear these clothes and do these type of songs? And I was like, no. However, I think if I would have said yes to some of those things and been like obvious, like where they're like, oh, this kid is so desperate for money and fame, maybe eventually they could have been like, do you want to go to a party or something? But I think out of their own protection, they kind of have like a tiered system. And if you don't roll over, same thing with the media. I knew in 2019 I could never work at Daily Wire or Fox News because I talked about Zionism. Like I could tell that was kind of like a no-go zone. And I went there even though I was nice about it. So I think the music industry is the same thing. There's a couple corporations and they're looking for people that are harmless or that can push an agenda. And no disrespect to Jelly Roll, but it's like, to me, Jelly Roll, it's like they got this guy. He doesn't talk about politics. He's like Kevin Hart now. He's in every commercial. I'm sure he's a great guy, but I'm sure if he came out and started talking about politics, they'd be like, shut the fuck up.
Well,
Sorry.
and there's other examples too, like, there's these old videos of Tupac, and this is like another controversial subject, but there's like, you have these old videos of Tupac, and it's like that's a gay dude, like that is a flamboyantly gay dude, and they turn him into this gangster rapper, and you do have other people that are honest in the industry, like a 50 Cent. I think 50 Cent tells a lot of truth about the industry, and he's like, yeah. And sometimes when you kind of read between the lines of their lyrics, like a DMX, you start to understand like what they were trying to say to you. It's like, hey, most of your favorite rappers are actually just gay dudes that they're turning into gangster thugs because, like you said, they wanted you to talk about killing police. They wanted you to start using the N-word in every sentence. And so, yeah, some guys you can bring them in and just say, hey, look, here's what you got. You can either do this with us and become a multimillionaire, or you can continue to do your own thing and be irrelevant. And of course, they have a list of guys that they can try to bring in and do it. And they might have a priority list, but eventually they can get the desired result out of anybody that they want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who was or wasn't gay. I've seen the videos of Tupac being very like, he was like a theater kid, you know what I'm saying? Kind of definitely flamboyant. But I think they became a character to some extent. And then it's like Hulk Hogan. It's like, when Hulk Hogan was alive, right? I think he recently passed, but it's like, could he be himself ever? Or like, was he Hulk Hogan or whatever his real name was, like Terry or something? Like nobody knows Terry. They only know Hulk Hogan. Like DMX. I remember Leo Cohen, not that he's the most trustworthy person to believe, but he was saying like nobody really knew who DMX was. Like he loved to fish and just like be in the middle of nowhere. But he always had to be DMX for the cameras and for everybody else. And I think, I don't know how much of that's organic or self-chosen and how much of that is industry pressured. I know Grandmaster Caz, who was the original guy who wrote the Sugar Hill Rapper's Delight, and I think somebody stole it from him. His old manager stole the original rap song from him and then rapped his name in it, even though it wasn't his name. Like you knew he stole it because it would be like me stealing your thing and be like, my name is Owen. And it's like, all right, bro, like you definitely stole that from Owen. I'm like, no, but yeah, he said that basically all the industry wanted to put out gangster rap. So if you were this black dude who was like conscious and lyrical, like a lot of people were at the beginning of hip hop, it didn't start super gangster or anything. They story told, but it wasn't gangster and crazy. The labels were like, we're not interested in you. So I don't know that this is the case, but I'm just going to use it as an example. It's like, say somebody came and they were really talented, but they weren't doing stuff that was crazy. They're like, why don't you act insane? And then we might sign you. Eminem, his first album, Infinite, it's not deranged and insane, but then he like gets signed to Dr. Dre, and all of a sudden he's talking about like killing his mom and like his wife and all this drugs and stuff. Like that wasn't, he talked about God in Infinite, his first album. So yeah, you really got to wonder how much of that is like the industry being like, let's mold you into this, this monster that'll be so much more sellable. And it's like records sold back when they used to talk about love and their kids and stuff. It's not like everyone had to do that. So I do think there is a nefarious agenda 100% to push culture in a certain direction that's not in the benefit.
Yeah, I think about Jurassic 5, and it's like you go back and you listen to that type of rap pop, and it's like, yeah, they didn't have to get degenerate and talk about that stuff. And you bring up Dre, it's like, really, if there was a singular moment or a singular group where everything changed, it was NWA. That was really what changed. I think, in my opinion, you may disagree, but in my opinion, it was NWA that kind of changed the entire industry, that went from, kind of classical rap, hip hop to gangster rap, that was controlled by the music industry to try to drive this agenda, which was mostly aimed at young black men. And you can see what happened to the culture of young black men when they did that, when they made that shift. I mean, it's obvious. It's the most influential culture now on young black men. At least it definitely was in the 90s and the early 2000s. I don't know about today, but you saw that happen in NWA, you know, and I like their music, by the way. I listen to their music. It's good stuff. But it's like, that's how you can see how powerful it is. It's like, okay, we're going to take this entire genre and we're going to turn it into a weapon, and we're going to influence the youth and watch the product we get. And now we see it.
Well, like I was saying in that documentary I watched, that's exactly the moment that he said everything changed. I think it was Grandmaster Caz, but he said after NWA, they only wanted to sign groups like that. So if you were talented, they're like, that's not really what we're looking for. And it's similar. Imagine if, you know, you go to a media company and they're like, Owen, you got a good look to you, you know, you're cool, you're well-spoken, you could read the teleprompter, you're honest, but you know, you criticize Trump too much. You call out the pharmaceutical industry. That's our main sponsor. And we definitely don't want you to talk about like the Israel lobby. So if you could like not do that, then we could sign you. But if not, you know, this guy will do that. And I think that
has never happened to me, by the way. Nothing like that has ever happened to me, guys. So just stop it.
No, but it's equivalent to that sort of thing where it's like you literally can't work at those labels unless you kind of play ball or at least listen to them. For me, I had a couple million views on YouTube before they actually valued it. Like they would always tell me in the meetings, like, you're just a YouTube rapper. YouTube doesn't matter. That's how early I was when I blew up on YouTube. I was one of like the first rappers, I think, I wasn't that big on YouTube, but to get label meetings off of YouTube.
Like when Star Wars Kid was the biggest video on YouTube is when you were emerging.
2008, 2009, those are when I had my hits. I had a couple million views then, but they would literally tell me like, wear Abercrombie. And I go, dude, what do you want me to get beat up in the hood? Like, I don't wear Abercrombie. Like, let me dress like, I think I look cool how I'm dressed.
I'm shocked. You really come off as an Abercrombie type of guy.
Dude, there was a moment for sure. But I think by the time I was 20, I was like, dude, I wore Abercrombie when I was 14, 13.
Yeah, that was like 6th or 8th grade.
The bird, you know what I'm saying? The popped up collar. I'm like, I try to get something working for the ladies, but no, when I turned 20, I was like, I'm not wearing Abercrombie anymore. And they got mad. They were like, ugh, well, you know, that's what we want you to do. And I remember one time, this guy who lived in Brooklyn, I went back for a second meeting and he goes, Anomaly, I'm blown away. Like I teach at a school and part-time or whatever to help out with the kids. And he goes, they knew who you were. And like the way he said it was crazy, where he's like, I just looked at you like a white kid. We were going to dress up in Abercrombie and like make dance around, but kids in the hood actually knew your raps. I was like, that's cool. So because I wouldn't do that, I think like the door is closed. But the conservative media, I'm not saying they did it to you, but I do think they do that to certain people. It's like, if pharmaceuticals are their main sponsors, why would they want someone on television pissing off the people that give them tens of millions of dollars? If everybody on television media doesn't seem to notice the Israeli lobby and cries about anti-Semitism all the time, then why would they want somebody on television like making everyone else look fake? I think that's why Tucker got kicked off TV. He was the best show and he was making everyone else look dumb. So I think the music industry and the news, I've seen two different parallels where no one specifically told me these things, but I've had a bunch of meetings. I've talked to a bunch of people. I've had, podcast meetings with people that were interested in signing me. And to me, they treat me exactly the same way the record labels did. It's so weird. It's like 10 years later, conservative media acts like liberal record labels. They talk the same. It's like this psychological game. It's like, Owen, like, can you want to do this? And you're like, no. And they're like, ooh, oh no. Okay. It's like a,
well, how much of that do you think is like, they're stunned when somebody won't sell out? I've kind of seen that myself, not as direct and, intimate as maybe you have, but I've kind of seen it myself where it's like, okay, here's an opportunity to do something. I mean, I guess I'll give it a direct example. Like, all of these different stuff that is starting to merge on social media where people are starting to notice. It's like, oh, social media is becoming like this local network news stuff where they plug the exact same thing into the local news teleprompter. The local news host from the network affiliate reads the exact same thing. And then you can play, 40 different local news hosts for the local Fox, CBS affiliate, whatever it is. And they literally say the exact same thing. Well, people are now seeing that exact same thing is happening on social media. So I don't know, you got a big social media account. Maybe you've been, brought into these groups and they offer you money for posts to post about a subject material or a news story or an individual or even an attack or a smear campaign. And, people bring you these different offers And when you turn them down, they're just like, what? Like, what? Like, this is basically like free money. And you're just like, yeah, no, I don't want to do this. It's a nice offer. I appreciate it. It's more than a fair offer, but I'm just going to pass. And they're just like stunned. They're like, what do you mean? You won't sell out for fame and fortune? I'm like, no. So it's like they're stunned when people won't sell out. They expect you to sell out.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some like weird offers, never to like smear an influencer or something like that, but like someone hit me up one time where it was like they wanted me to like do an anti CCP song. And I'm like, I'm not a fan of the CCP, like, but I'm not trying to be paid to make a song. Like, it just seemed weird to me. It was like, I don't know. It was like anti CCP, like where I was like, I don't do propaganda music. If I make a CCP song, it's going to be out of the love, not out of like someone telling me to do it. And then also like just random sponsors. Most people will sell anything. I probably turn down 90% of sponsors because if I don't believe in it or think it's a good product, I'm not going to sell it. I'm not desperate for money. And the craziest part is compared to these other influencers and athletes and stuff, like I don't have that much money, but I have enough to turn it down. And I also would have turned it down when I had nothing. So I talked about it the other day on my show. You got these athletes with $500 million that are doing gambling sponsors. And it's like, bro, you can't turn down a gambling ad when you have $500 million.
Didn't you see you had Odell Beckham Jr. and then most recently Cam Newton. Now Newton has a TV deal, so he's at least getting checks. But both of these guys made over $100 million playing in the NFL. And they're complaining like it's hard to live. Like they can't live after making $100 million. And I'm like, okay, well, either one of two things is true. Either you're just lying or you spent all your money.
Yeah, I mean, they're just living above their means. It's hard to process, especially for athletes really should know because it's one of those jobs where you can only do it for 20 years max. But it's like they're spending a couple $1 million a year, like they're going to be making $5 million for the rest of their lives. But you're making the money now, and then that money has to last for 40 years when you're not working. So I think they spent above their means and probably were balling out as if they were going to make those salaries forever, which is a miscalculation. But I think just principally, most people will sell out. Most people will work jobs that they don't believe in. Most people will say, well, I need the money. It doesn't matter if you have $500 million or $50. And I've always been that way since I was 19. I was literally broke, had zero money. And when I was offered my first few things from the music industry, it wasn't the greatest offer ever, but one time I'll just tell you, because I remember some of the numbers, they had this double deal where this one guy who was like a powerful guy at the time and knew all these people, distributors, etc. He's like, I'll be your manager and your record label. And I'm adding up the percentages. He would have owned 85% of my music. I would have only owned 15%. So I was like, bro, I don't care how much money you give me. There's no way I'm only owning 15% of my music. That's crazy. But I think in politics and stuff, everybody just sponsors ads, money, money, money. I understand it, but I also at the same time, it's the reason that everyone's so easy to manipulate. Who can turn down $250 million? Who could turn down $2,500, $5,000, $10,000? Like nobody seems to be able to do that. But to me, it's just who I am. It's how I am. And I do it with sponsors. I would say 90% of sponsors I turn down just because I wouldn't use the product or I think it's like crap, Here's $5,000 to promote crap on Instagram. Yeah, you can have the $5,000. I'll just not do it. Like I'll find money elsewhere.
Well, and not everybody, you bring up the ownership rights. Not everybody has $1 billion like Taylor Swift to go back and buy their music back, right? It's like that was kind of a bit of a reveal there. Where it was like, for people that don't understand, they're like, why does Taylor Swift have to buy her own music? And then I think she ended up just remaking them. I think is what she ended up doing was just remastering everything instead and then made another $1 billion. And Taylor Swift does get a lot of heat and whatever. She's famous. I'm not here to stick up for Taylor Swift. But she has kind of fought a couple good battles. She went up against the big record labels, and she did cut. I don't know if you ever saw that video, but after she did her big, I think it was her big Eras tour, and she made like a ridiculous amount of money. She cut 6-figure checks. She cut 6-figure bonus checks for everybody that worked on that tour. Trump gave the military $1,700. Taylor Swift gave groupies $100,000.
I mean, that's a great thing. I think if you're a good boss and you're making a fortune, it's nice to spread the love. I have an unpopular opinion real quick about her whole record label thing. the record company can't own your records unless you sell them to them. So the reason Taylor Swift was able to make so much money is because she signed a deal with a big record label. And as soon as she made all the money, now she wants to own her music, but you already sold it. So it's like the record label isn't necessarily wrong there because, you know, you could be an independent artist and try to own your music. Oh, you don't want to do that? So I find that in, you know, when Crowder and the Daily Wire thing was going on too, I wasn't a fan of the Daily Wire contract, but Crowder's like, look at this, look at that. They want, it's like, dude, they're paying what, 50 million, 100 million, whatever the number was. It's like, if you're going to get that much money, like baseball player money, then they're going to own all your stuff. And if you don't want to take the baseball player money, then you got to do it on your own. And then you'll make less money slower, but you'll own all your stuff. I guess because I'm an independent artist, it's like I could have, I mean, I wouldn't have been as big as Taylor Swift, obviously, but it's like, you know, take that route, sell out your soul, sell out all your stuff, and then complain about it 10 years later. None of these people want to put in the groundwork and just do it themselves, where I own 100% of all my music because I never sold it to anybody. She sold it, and that's why they promoted her and made her huge. So I'm not trying to take their side necessarily, but it's like all these people want to be indie afterwards, you know, just like everybody, like when you can make money telling the truth about politics, now they want to do it. Now they want to be Trump fans, or now they want to talk about the Israel lobby. Maybe that's like people figured it out now, but I think a lot of people play it strategically and just kind of like wait for the moment to, you know, where it's safe to do.
Well, I'm curious about that. Then it sounds like you got a pretty good level of information here. Do you know when she signed that deal? The reason why I ask is she used to do concerts for free, because I remember she used to come to my hometown in St. Louis. It was actually a city just outside of St. Louis called St. Charles, way more country than St. Louis. And she went there twice, and she did free shows, I think when she was 15 years old. And of course, I went with my friends because we were 15 and there were other 15-year-old girls that were there. So, I mean, you can do the math. I was in my Abercrombie. And so I'm thinking, did she sign those deals when she was really young and they just took advantage of her because she was young, or did she sign them when she was older? Do you know when that happened?
That's a good point with the age. 2004, I guess 2005, she signed a big deal with Big Machine Records. And then it says 2004, she signed with Sony ATV. I know that she was like really hustling for a long time beforehand.
So that was when she was doing the free tour then. So they got her, they got her like when she was 14.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes they do a really good job, the labels, of like pretending like someone's indie when they're not, or like doing stuff that seems more organic than it is. But it's like, yeah, I guess I have more sympathy for sure if you're young, but I don't think she regrets anything. Like, I think if you went back or you asked Taylor Swift now and you're like, would you have not signed that deal? Even if someone says, oh, I never would have signed my things away, no one would know who Taylor Swift was if she didn't, like, they blew her up. And without that machine in 2006, there's a 0% chance Taylor Swift's as big as she is now. I think she could have made it in the social media era, but she would have had to wait, 15 years and passed up. I've been like 32 trying to make it and like blow up out of nowhere, which is really hard to do. So it's one of those things where, it's the same with this sort of thing. Like, oh, I have to take the vaccine because my boss will fire me. Like, I have to stop talking about big pharma or else I can't work at, this news corporation. What if everybody just didn't do that? So I guess, I'm definitely, I don't know if I would say biased, but it's like, I see people that played like inside baseball with mainstream media for 12 years. And then they're like, it's like, dude, no one would know who you were without that machine. Why didn't you do it at the start? But to each their own.
Well, and it is a different world with social media, but it is certainly a different beast when you're independent. So, you make choices. You make choices in life and you deal with the consequences. But it is like, if you sign your name on the dotted line, maybe there's room to say, like, I look at the college loan situation, and I think there's room to say, you know what, the college loan situation is a scam. It is. It's a total scam, and they take advantage of these young kids. But at the end of the day, you still signed your name on the line, and you did that, and you made that choice.
Yeah. I think it worked out for her. She got her music back. She made all the money.
Do you think it worked out for Taylor Swift? Do you think she's doing all right?
100%. I wanted to add this real quick because this is something interesting now that we're talking about the music industry that nobody knows about. There's these big hedge funds or bankers that are buying everyone's music. Like, let's say you're Justin Bieber and you own 50% of your music. Nobody, unless you're like me or Russ or somebody, like owns 100% of their stuff. Everybody had to sell a little bit at least to their company, probably at least half. So Justin Bieber sold his entire discography to some bankers or some hedge fund because they're offering these absorbent amount of money. He's like, here's $200 million. Everyone I know is doing it. Even big artists that are not as big as like Justin Bieber, they're telling me that they're selling to these bankers and hedge funds because, say you don't have that much money and they're like, here's $1 million for all of your music. We'll own 100% forever, but we'll pay you 30-year advance, basically. Like you would probably make $1 million in 30 years. But here's it once. Everyone's selling their music on, like the bankers and the hedge funds own like everyone's music now. That's kind of weird to me, right? Like I'm not important enough for them to offer me, but everyone I know that's bigger than me, even if they're a little bigger, has sold to their entire discography. Like no one owns their music anymore. Barely anybody.
You know what? And this is why perspective is so important on these things. And it's hard. Perspective is hard to gain, right? Because you really only get one perspective, your own. And so in order to find out other perspectives, you have to really kind of search and learn and talk to people and, do your own research. I guess, it's kind of a cliche now, but it's true to get these different perspectives. And so it's really hard for people to understand something like that. I kind of compare what you're talking about with these giant hedge funds buying up all the real estate. And so you kind of see this and most people are thinking about their own lives or whatever financial deals they have for this month in their budget, or maybe for a year, or maybe they got a college fund for their kids. It's like, so it's like most people's perspective is very limited. You talk about these hedge funds, you talk about these bankers, you talk about these elite families that just hand these things down. What I hear is they're thinking, hey, you basically have this much time to make money making music. We're going to make money off of your music for 100 years. We're going to make we're going to make money off your music long after you're dead. And so for them, it's like, yeah, why not just cut this deal? Because maybe we're paying a lot right now, but we've got 100 years to make that money back. And we will. It's the same thing that I think that, State Street, BlackRock, Vanguard, all these different groups. I think it's the same thing that they're doing with the real estate market. It's like, and they have enough money, they're probably not even over levered. But even if they did, they'd be like, hey, look, eventually everybody's going to move into our house. Like eventually everybody's going to be paying us and we're going to get the returns on these things. And then we have total control over the market. So it sounds like it's a very similar thing. It's monopoly men is what it is.
Right. It's just happening in music and like nobody knows about it, but because nobody wants to tell people they're selling their discography because it's kind of embarrassing, for like, oh, I'm making $100K a year off music and someone offered me $4 million. I took $4 million and now I don't own any of my music. They're not like telling people, but the same thing you're saying with Vanguard, BlackRock, all that stuff. Here's the question though, and this is kind of the ethical question. If people are just playing money, that's one thing, but if they mess up on loans, like, will they be forgiven? For example, the bankers, like banks messed up in 2008, right? And then the government just kind of had their back. So I think some people are playing Monopoly with a different set of pieces.
Like a too big to fail safeguard, too big to fail.
Right. And I think that's a huge thing that most people don't understand is banking. Another one, and I'm not saying anything nefarious here, I just kind of did some research. Everybody thinks Dana White owns the UFC. Dana White's the CEO. The UFC is owned by Zuffa, which is owned by Ari Emanuel, whose brother Rahm Emanuel, everybody knows, the politician. But there's a whole story about Ari Emanuel. It had to do with like loans, and it was a big risk because he bought it with loans. And I don't want to, make mistakes or errors, but you could like look it up into that. So people knowing how to leverage loans, buy things, make money over time. There's a big game being played for sure with the big players. And yeah, I think if you're as big as a bank and you fail, the whole country fails. Or like if Nvidia had a problem, Trump would be a communist in 2 seconds and hop in, because if Nvidia failed, our whole stock market would implode. And I'm not even saying it's wrong to jump in there, but I do think it's wrong to take a percentage of one of the chip companies. I think that's a little weird.
Well, I actually think a lot of that is going on right now. And I think that's why NVIDIA was trying to get into China, got rejected. I think that's China in the trade war with Trump. And now NVIDIA is going into Israel, who obviously is a strong ally of Trump. And so I think Israel is now kind of bailing out NVIDIA because, Trump talks a big game. I got some of this in my news today. I'm not going to get to it. We're about to sign off. But like he talks about all the trillions and all this money. It's like literally not there. I mean, it's literally not even there. And I think that this story is just beginning. Most people don't know that Trump actually bailed out banks. That didn't get any coverage. A couple of months ago, Trump bailed out banks. And so I think that all this talk about the money and the tariffs and everything, I don't think the money's there. And I think that this is going to be a big story to drop next year once people kind of realize it, that, all this big talk and all these trillions, it just simply ain't there. It's just, I don't know if he's making it up or if people are giving him numbers that they just haven't manifested yet, but it's just simply not there. Hey, let me ask you this before we sign off here. As we're talking about the sales of people's music and discographies and everything, have you ever looked into or heard about the conspiracy theory that the reason they offed Michael Jackson was because he didn't want to sell his entire rights to his music and his likeness? And so the let's just say the powers that be knew that was billions of dollars of money that he was keeping from them. And so, he got the little accidental overdose.
I have heard that, and there's videos of him being mad at his old record head. And I think also Michael, like, he figured out a way to finesse it where he had a few albums left. He did them real quick. Like, he was really smart. Not only that, because I have heard that theory, and I do know he did have issues with his record label trying to get out or do his own thing. Another thing too that's very underrated and talked about is he actually somehow bought the Beatles discography, which is like, dude, if I could pick one band to own, it would be probably the Beatles, like, or Michael Jackson. Like, those are so you have Michael Jackson owns Michael Jackson's music and the Beatles music. That's crazy. So that, like, and I think he died, and I think that they did like a forced sell-off or something of the Beatles music. So somehow he finessed or outsmarted somebody to get not only his own music, but the Beatles music. So that is crazy stuff for sure. I've heard the theories. Absolutely.
And then I believe the drug was Demerol that they hit him with. And what's even crazier about this, I don't know how big of a fan of Michael Jackson's music you are. I was a massive fan of his music. Listen to his whole discography. He did a song. What was the name of the song? I forget the name of the song. The song was about morphine. That was the name of the song. The name of the song was Morphine. And in the song, he has a bridge about Demerol. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Really?
You see, yeah, it's wild.
I don't know if you've seen it, but Dick Gregory was really good friends with Michael Jackson. If you YouTube Dick Gregory, Michael Jackson, he says that they killed Michael Jackson, and he like explains it kind of in that YouTube. Watch that. And also Dick Gregory, dude, he's a fascinating guy. I think at one point the paper said he was leading an election. Like, he ran for president one time. He was like winning in New York, and then they like shut it down. And he has like newspapers from like 50 years ago. And he's like, yo, the elections are not what you think they are. Like, I was winning, and they shut it all down. You got to check out that stuff. Dick Gregory's a legend. But yeah, Dick Gregory killed Michael Jackson. Not he killed Michael Jackson, but if you search those things in YouTube, you'll find the video.
Like, that's the title. Like, if you search Dick Gregory, Michael Jackson.
Yeah, he did not. I don't think he killed Michael Jackson. He was friends with him. But yeah.
Oh, I would definitely say that was a job. That was a job to off Michael, I believe, which is really sad and heartbreaking, because he was really, and then it's like, and even with all the accusations and everything too, you're like, was it all just part of an attack to destroy a good guy? It's like, it's so hard to have good people that get that famous. And it's like, and the ones that do, that's what they do to you.
Right. I mean, look at like Amanda Bynes. That's like so sad. I loved Amanda Bynes when I was growing up. But with Michael, like, let's just say that no conspiracy theory is right, and it was this accidental overdose from a doctor, which is crazy, by the way. But anyway, it's like, let's just say they which I saw in the last 10 years, they made everybody in the public hate Michael Jackson. Like, even me, I thought he was terrible. And I'm like, oh my gosh, everything they're saying about him is true. What does that do to your mentally, physically? Like, even if, say, he took his own life, which I think the doctor, right? Didn't he get in trouble for that? But anyway, it's like they try to crush you so that you go, you know what I'm saying? Like, which is like a form of almost just like mass media and societal like destruction of
like
your,
the
life.
Episode with Britney Spears.
It's crazy stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, Anomaly, this has been fun. Always great to talk to you. Where can people follow your work?
Instagram, Dream Rare, DreamRare, like my sign. If it's even, I don't know if it's reversed or not, but maybe it's backwards. But if not, it's all good. And then
read it. It's straight. It doesn't look Russian.
Okay, cool. And then Twitter, Legendary Energy, all one word. Appreciate you having me on, and I'll be around. All right, guys. One of the few straight talkers out there in media, Anomaly. Give him a follow. Great to talk to you. We'll talk again soon. Thank you, my friend. All right, adios. There he goes. All right, we are about to sign off for the evening. Again, ladies and gentlemen,
we were supposed to have a special transmission Tuesday night. My guest got caught up in a flight delay on a tarmac, so we delayed it. We're going to do it tonight in about 20 minutes. We're going to be doing that. It's a bit of a show announcement, but it's something that you've probably heard about before. It's going to be about men's health, but it's a big health topic right now. You've probably heard about it before. In fact, they used to do hit pieces. You may recall Tucker Carlson did a special on this. This is the deep tease now, but Tucker Carlson did a special on the subject material for tonight's show, and then they ran a bunch of hit pieces about it. So we're going to tell you the truth. We're going to bring the science tonight. We're going to tell you the truth. It's a bit of a show announcement too, because we will be announcing a new sponsor tonight. But it's about a technology, let's say, that has been scientifically proven as what people might call a life hack or a biohack. And this is something that I've been using for a long time. It's been successful for me. So I want to introduce it to you tonight if you haven't heard about it, but you probably have, but maybe not so much the actual science behind it. So we're going to be doing that tonight, and maybe, call it a show announcement too, because we're going to be introducing a new sponsor of the show. You'll be hearing more about that on the next Owen Report. But I said to the guy, because just like Anomaly was saying, I'm the same way. I'm not going to have a sponsor of a product that I don't like, or a product that I don't use or have been using. I'm just not going to do it. Now, there might be products that I think are good products and I just don't use them. Like if somebody says, hey, I've got an organic dog food, and I'm like, well, I don't have a dog, but okay, organic dog food. But no, this is a product I've been using for a long time. But I told him, because he was like, well, here's all the science on this stuff. And I said, well, look, why don't you present this? Because I don't want to use the Owen Report as a place to talk about, this report is for news and topical conversation and current events. But I said, why don't we do a separate stream, and then we can really just get into the science and spend an hour actually talking about the science, because it is a big topic of discussion, especially for people in the life hack world, let's say the biohack world, which is kind of a big subject of discussion. So that's going to be coming up in about 15 minutes once we sign off. There's a couple other things I didn't get to tonight, but we are out of time, and I gotta start this next stream. Let me see if there's anything. Let me see if there is anything I feel the need. How about this one? All right, we showed you the Marjorie Taylor Greene post. You probably didn't hear about this. Last night in Kentucky, folks, again, if you look at some of these special elections, it's really not looking good for Republicans. In fact, you really can't point to any trend in an actual election that looks good for Republicans. Democrat wins election by 47-point landslide in Kentucky. Democrat Gary Clemens, this is in southern Louisiana, took 72.6% of the vote from Republican Calvin Leach. He won by 47 points. Now, if you want to see the metrics as far as, well, what does that mean compared to the presidential election? Kamala Harris won that district by 6%. 6%. This guy just won it by 47%. So I think that represents two things. Republican voters aren't showing up, and some of them, if they are voting Democrat, because that is a massive landslide. That's not a small deal. That is a massive landslide. And that's not a deep blue area. That's a purple area in Kentucky that can go either way. So just more evidence that things are not trending right for the midterms. So this administration better figure it out fast. And I don't know if they think they got a trick up their sleeve or if they're high on their own supply. But that is a crazy one. All right, before we sign off, and then remember, we'll be back live here in 20 minutes with a bit of a show announcement. And really, it's going to be kind of a men's health thing. I'm going to be discussing a men's health thing, a men's health hack. that I really like. If you like the hat we're wearing today, brand new to owenschroyer.store, brand new to owenschroyer.store, the Still Alive hat with skull. How do you like that? So if you like this hat I'm wearing today, that's at owenschroyer.store, Still Alive with the skull. It actually says, plug your ears, muff them, kids, muff the kids' ears here. It actually, the hat is the Still Alive Fuck 'em hat that we're wearing today. I don't know if that's purpose with a certain attitude I had today, or maybe I just wasn't comfortable with my hair, or maybe it was a hat day. Everybody had a hat on today. I don't know. Maybe it was all three of the things. The stars aligned. So if you like that, owenschroyer.store. And we appreciate you shopping there. All right. Signing off for now. But going to be right back here in about 20 minutes with a show announcement and a guest on a subject material for a men's health hack, something I've been doing for years that I want to bring to this audience. So we sign off for now. The Owen Report will be back in 21 hours, but I'll be back right here in 20 minutes. So either way, I hope to see you soon.